Chapter-61-Soft Blackbeard. Hearing Li Ang's words, Blackbeard Titch fell silent. The pain in his body gradually subsided, but he could never forget this heart-piercing pain in his life. No injuries, but the pain is indescribable. Li Ang's strength also made Blackbeard more aware of the huge gap between the two sides. Okay, I promise you. Blackbeard's face was heavy, and he nodded solemnly. Under the control of Li Ang's terrifying power, unless he really thinks about it. Otherwise, there is no other way to get out of here alive. Li Ang's swordsmanship is terrible. This was the most terrifying swordplay Blackbeard had ever seen. Even the red-haired shanks of the four emperors and the eagle-eyed Mahawk of Chiwahai couldn't shake Li Ang's terrifying swordsmanship. Purely in terms of swordsmanship, Li Ang's swordsmanship is well-deserved #1 in the world. This should be the pinnacle of swordsmanship. It's so perfect, it's almost impeccable. Blackbeard thought bitterly in his heart, shaking his head and sighing. Vassos, Lafitte and other 4 people stood aside and did not speak. The 4 of them also knew about the biggest secret in Blackbeard's heart. That is, about devil fruits. Tell me about it. Li Ang held a black knife in autumn water, and there were still bright red bloodstains on the blade, blending into it. He looked at Blackbeard's expression without any emotional fluctuations. At the same time, the domineering arrogance of seeing and hearing has all spread, listening to the words in Blackbeard's heart. Most of Blackbeard's thoughts at this time were tangled, whether to really tell Li Ang the huge secret he had hidden for so many years. About the dark fruit, and the secret of the ability to peel off the devil fruit. It's about the dark fruit and the devil fruit. Blackbeard looked at Li Ang with a slightly heavy tone. This was the first time he had spoken about this secret to anyone other than his companions. I know. Li Ang nodded calmly and said. How did you know that? Blackbeard's pupils shrank and he lost his voice. Immediately, he looked at the 4 men around him with suspicion. It's not me, Captain, we've been following you all the time, how could it be possible to meet him? Yeah, there's no way we could have that chance. The 4 quickly explained. Stop guessing, I know more than you know. The corners of Li Ang's mouth were slightly raised, and he smiled lightly. As far as I know, the dark fruit has an ability, so I am very eager to get it. It is because of its ability that it is too overbearing. It can make the ability person hold the second devil fruit. Chapter-61 Blackbeard's clothes are soft. NLT, 51 and GT. It can make the ability person hold the second devil fruit. Quote. Blackbeard gradually opened his mouth, slowly revealing the secrets that had been buried in his heart for many years. In the end, Li Ang listened to all Blackbeard's words, and at the same time, the domineering unfolding of seeing and hearing also allowed him to clearly hear Blackbeard's thoughts. This allows Li Ang to be sure whether Blackbeard is lying. After these words, Blackbeard didn't lie. In addition, Li Ang also gained a lot of knowledge about devil fruits. Have to admit. In terms of devil fruits, Blackbeard has a very thorough understanding. Although it may not be like the scientist Vegapunk, Blackbeard is also unique in his own field. At least, even Vegapunk doesn't know how a person can have 2 devil fruits. However, Blackbeard did it. Okay, you can get out. Li Ang waved his hand, looked at the 4 Blackbeards, and said casually. That's it, let us go. Lafitte was a little surprised and blurted out. As soon as the words came out, he regretted it and hated himself for being cheap. Shouldn't have asked, he actually asked randomly. You know, Li Ang in front of him has the terrifying power to destroy the 5 of them. Unless you want to die, then I can fulfill you. Li Ang looked at Lafitte with a smile and said. Immediately, Lafitte shook his head quickly, wiped his cold sweat, and said, No, we don't want to die. Let's go. Blackbeard took a deep look at Li Ang, and at that moment, he even had the idea of incorporating Li Ang into the pirate ship. But Li Ang's strength was so terrifying that Blackbeard didn't think the other party would agree to him at all. Even the position of Chihuahai, Li Ang refused. What's more, it's his Blackbeard, a nobody. In the future, don't disturb my peace. Li Ang's face was calm, and he said lightly. Definitely. Blackbeard nodded solemnly and said. In this lifetime, he never wanted to step into this sea again. The sense of fear that Li Ang brought him deeply penetrated his heart, and he could not easily forget it in this lifetime. The other four kept smiling and nodding when they heard Li Ang's words. Just kidding, they've had enough to experience a near-death experience, how dare they disturb Li Ang's life? This is simply suicide. NLT, 52 and GT. Chapter 062_The End of the War. Horror bark. On the coast, corpses piled up into mountains. A group of pirates swore to come here, turned into a skeleton, and disappeared from this world. Together with the Blackbeard pirates, they have to expose their biggest secrets before they can get the qualification to leave here. In addition, Li Ang didn't want to help the Navy headquarters to eradicate pirates, so he didn't do anything to Blackbeard. As for what other things Blackbeard will cause in the future, he can't control it. Anyway, as long as the Navy headquarters can't seek benefits, that's enough. As for the large piece of pirates that died, they died, and they didn't pose much of a threat to the Navy headquarters, that is, a dispensable existence. But Li Ang still needed them to pass the news out, so 200 pirates were left behind. Okay, you all go away. Li Ang looked at the remaining 200 trembling pirates and said lightly. Thank you sir for raising your hand. Come on, I'll never step in here again, it's horrible. Damn the Navy headquarters, it turns out that they want us to die. No wonder, they don't do it, they want us to do it, it's too hateful. After I go out, I will definitely take revenge on them. Quote. A group of pirates were full of anger, but in the same way, the fear on their expressions could not be erased, and they quickly walked to the remaining pirate ships on the coast, ready to leave. Wait. Suddenly, Li Ang stretched out his hand and said, what did you just say? Immediately, the pirates were shocked, and the 200 pirates turned their heads and said quickly, Sir, we didn't say anything, don't kill us. You said just now that you want to take revenge on the Navy. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled. No, we made a mistake, we made a slip of the tongue. Many pirates were puzzled, but they quickly denied it. Regardless of right or wrong, anyway, it would be right to kill him and deny it. No, I mean, if you want to take revenge on the Navy, you'd better do it more thoroughly, but don't be merciful. Li Ang shook his head and smiled lightly. After hearing this, many pirates understood what Li Ang meant, and patted their chests with excitement. Don't worry, my lord, we will definitely take revenge against the Navy. That's right, these guys in the Navy are insidious and despicable. We must make them look good. Sir, if there is nothing else, then we will go first. A group of pirates asked a little nervously. In the future, don't bother me. If there is another time, it will not be so lucky. Li Ang's eyes twinkled brightly, and his voice was flat, without any emotional fluctuations. It must be sure, we have the guts to not disturb your life again, sir. Everything before was only harmed by those despicable guys in the Navy headquarters. Many pirates nodded in unison and said. They kept Li Ang's words in their hearts. In fact, without Li Ang reminding them, they themselves did not dare to step into the magic triangle. Chapter 062_The End of the War. NLT, 53 and GT. In fact, without Li Ang reminding them, they themselves did not dare to step into the magic triangle. Here, a place like the devil, has become a nightmare in their hearts. Today, I can still vaguely see that on the edge of the coast, the piles of corpses are like a hill, and the scene is terrifying. In the air, the smell of blood has not dissipated. The blood accumulated by so many corpses, the bloody smell will not disappear for a while. Immediately, a large group of pirates frantically entered the pirate ship, regardless of whether they knew each other or not. Anyway, everyone had a common purpose. Get out of here, that's right. Blackbeard and other 5 people had already occupied a pirate ship and gradually disappeared in the area of the terrifying bark, gradually disappearing. And this group of pirates, one after another, also sailed out to sea and entered a foggy area ahead. Coast. Liang watched the group of pirates leave, with a calm face and a touch of interest. Navy headquarters, you have offended me. If you don't fight back, you really think I'm a soft persimmon. I'll take this account first. On. Sir. Hogbach and Absalom came quickly, looking at the large corpse in front of them, their hearts throbbing, and their voices became a little nervous. Give these corpses to Moonlight Moria. Liang glanced at the corpses and said lightly, I believe, he will be happy to accept it. It is very true what the Lord said. The two nodded. Really? Moonlight Moria is also very interested in corpses. The swordsman walked step by step, looked at Liang, and admired him even more. The perfect extreme swordsmanship just now was displayed in his sight again, which made him feel deeply. Nice knife. Liang looked at the swordsman Longma with a smile, and threw the black knife at Chushui. The knives that can show the ultimate swordsmanship in the hands of adults are all good knives and have the value of collection. After all, this is the weapon you have used, sir. The swordsman Ryoma cherished and held the black knife Chushui and said. Okay, let's go home. Liang waved his hand to stop the flattering words of the swordsman Longma. Afterwards, the 4 of them gradually left, and the corpses here will soon be received by Moonlight Moria sent by a zombie army. The matter of the Navy headquarters and Liang, just forget it. Of course not. Next, it was time for Liang to fight back fiercely against the naval headquarters. However, it is still waiting for this wave of turmoil in the sea to end. He reappeared, dealing a heavy blow to the naval headquarters. In this way, his reputation can be even louder. P.S. Ask for flowers. Ask for comments. Thank you. NLT, 54 and GT. Chapter 063_Shaking Sea. A few days later. Great Fairway. Magic Triangle. The pirate ships escaped smoothly from the inside, looking back with lingering fears on their faces, looking at the strange place behind them, and their expressions were full of fear. I won't come here in my whole life. Yes, who knows, Liang's strength is terrifying to such an extent, it's simply too terrifying. But fortunately, we finally escaped. In my life, I don't want to come here. Also, those guys in the Navy headquarters are simply too hateful. Quote. In the end, there were only 3 pirate ships that came out of the Magic Triangle. The rest have sunk to the bottom of the sea, and the pirates above have died. There are less than 100 pirates still alive today. But just these 100 people are enough to spread Liang's name and achievements all over the sea. Now, I propose to destroy a navy branch first. These damn navies are villains. It's too hateful for us to lose so many brothers. A pirate suggested. In fact, it was Liang who killed their companions. But they don't have the ability to take revenge. Naturally, they can only put hatred on some small navy. Go. A group of pirates made a vow, and after replenishing their hungry stomachs, they rushed to the nearest island to find people from the navy to fight. At the same time, with the departure of this group of pirates, the whole process takes less than a day. The news swept the entire sea area, and many pirates in the Great Waterway already knew the result of that battle. Lagos Town. This is a thriving town. On the street, people come and go. Some pirate ships even blatantly log in on the edge of the coast. It's terrifying. Hundreds of pirate ships were wiped out. Those who survived were deliberately fled. Thousands rushed to the Magic Triangle, but less than 100 escaped. My God, this Liang is too strong. No, this time, the plan of the Navy headquarters is going to fail. Moreover, it is said that Liang is going to start working on the Navy headquarters in the near future, do you know? Really? Liang is only one person. How dare he attack the Navy headquarters? Isn't this self-destruction? You don't know. Liang can kill thousands of pirates, so how could he be afraid of the Navy headquarters? It's just a joke. Quote. Chapter 063_The Shaking Sea, and GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. And LT, 55 and GT. Quote. Throughout the town, the battle that happened a few days ago was circulating. Hundreds of pirate ships swore to enter the Magic Triangle. In the end, there were less than 100 people who escaped. This matter has become a topic of discussion for almost everyone. Some pirates who were just about to move, also suppressed the restlessness in their hearts. The record of this battle appeared, effectively curbing the pirates and some bounty hunters who wanted to go to the Magic Triangle one after another. No way. Liang's strength is so terrifying that even hundreds of pirate ships can't do anything, let alone them. Of course. This result, many smart people have long expected. Some pirates wanted to participate in this battle, but in the end they didn't. At this time, they were relieved and happy. Fortunately, I didn't take part in this battle, otherwise, I would have died by now. Yeah, who would have thought that Liang alone could kill thousands of pirates? This record is something that even the Navy headquarters cannot ignore. Next, the Navy headquarters will be troubled. Liang is said to be about to start, let's wait and see. Quote. The pirates who did not participate in the battle were very happy and looked forward to it. Next, what kind of battle will break out between Liang and the Navy headquarters? This news quickly spread to everyone's ears. What? You said, the group of pirates who rushed to the Magic Triangle with great momentum a few days ago were all killed. No, is there the last 100 people left? Liang did it by himself. He killed thousands of people by himself. This is no child's play. Fuck, Liang is too scary, this is a monster. After the group of pirates escaped, when they talked about Liang, their expressions changed and they didn't dare to say too much. So frightened. On the islands, Liang's achievements are circulating. In addition, they have even contacted the narration of the group of pirates who escaped from the Magic Triangle. According to the words of these pirates, this is what they said. Even if the sky falls, in this life, I will never step into the Magic Triangle again. It is the devil's territory. I will never forget the scene at that time in my life. Even I lost my urination. That scene is the nightmare of my life. Liang, he is too strong. He slashed even the sea with one blow. You have never seen that scene before, it's really terrifying. On the spot, I was so frightened that I lost my urination and my legs became weak. It's not that I was timid. I believe that the pirates who escaped with me at the time would definitely feel the same way. Quote. P.S. Ask for flowers. Ask for comments. Thank you. And LT, 56 and GT. Chapter 064_ Sengoku's Response. Naval Headquarters, Marin Vando. Office of the Marshal. Here, in addition to warring states, even Garp was on the sofa, eating senbei with a face full of leisure. Lang Lang smiled and said, Warring states, don't keep your face straight all day, this is so tiring. Cap, don't interrupt while I'm thinking. Warring States helplessly raised his forehead and said bluntly. Just when Garp was about to speak again. Dong dong dong. The door knocked. Come in. Warring States said bluntly. A Navy soldier entered the Marshal's office holding a document. Marshal of the Warring States period, the hundreds of pirate ships poured into the Magic Triangle, and now the results have already appeared. They were wiped out. No less than 3,000 people entered, and there are still more than 100 people who survived in the end. Quote. The soldier's face was shocked, and he said with a bit of panic. Well. Sengoku's eyes twinkled brightly, not too surprised. He knew for a long time that it was impossible to deal with Liang if he relied on this group of pirates. After all, the other party couldn't even catch Kizaru, so how could he die at the hands of these pirates? Only. He used some strategies to let Liang be the blade of the navy to effectively kill these pirates. But when he heard the number of dead pirates, Sengoku still took a deep breath. Thousands of people, all killed. This time, I'm afraid it will really bring some turbulence to the sea. Especially the pirate group, the arrogant pirate group in the past. This time, they will restrain a lot when they think about it. Being able to kill so many pirate ships at once, I think, isn't that what we would like to see? The corners of the Warring States' mouth twitched slightly, and he smiled. Warring States, you are so confident that he will be at the mercy of others. After all, he is the one who escaped from the advancing city. It should not be underestimated. If you are not careful, the boat capsized in the gutter. Carp said bluntly with a little chuckle. Marshal of the Warring States period, and his name is circulating at sea. It is said that he will attack our navy in the near future. The soldier thought for a moment and then said, "Do it." Sengoku shook his head and said, "He doesn't have the courage. Even if he has decent strength, he still doesn't dare to challenge the majesty of our navy. Slaughter the quartet there." Really? The words of the Warring States are correct. It's just that he neglected a little, the biggest factor. That is, the speed of Liang's strength improvement. This is his greatest oversight. After all, no one would have imagined that Liang had become such a terrifying powerhouse in less than a month after he left the city. Chapter 064 The Response of the Warring States. NLT, 57 and GT. After all, no one would have imagined that Liang had become such a terrifying powerhouse in less than a month after he left the city. This is something that Warring States could never have imagined. Even in front of me, I can't believe it. In a month's time, people have changed so much. In fact, even the people of the Blackbeard pirates thought that Liang was so tyrannical from the beginning. However, what everyone didn't know was that a month ago, Liang was just a weak chicken who was slaughtered by others, and he didn't have the ability to escape from the advanced city at all. But since he escaped from the advanced city, his strength has been rapidly progressing. The moment you arrive at the Magic Triangle, meet the swordsman Ryoma, and have the ultimate swordsmanship. Liang possesses the terrifying power that can shake the naval headquarters. But these things are beyond the control of the Navy headquarters. Their understanding of Liang was still at the time when the other party escaped from the advanced city and fought against Kyobu, and they did not think that Liang could bring such huge progress in this month. Even Moonlight Mariah never knew. When Liang just landed on the horror bark, he didn't have the strength to shake him at all. But when he encountered a swordsman named Longma, the system modified Liang's swordsmanship level, raising his strength level to the top level at once. There are also extreme speed, extreme knowledge and color, and so on. The Liang at this time was no longer the Liang he was a month ago, nor the Liang in the eyes of the Warring States period, nor the Liang who had fought against the Yellow Monkey and could only passively defend. This change is fatal to the Navy headquarters. It also completely exceeded the expectations of the Warring States period, and this most fatal flaw appeared in his layout. In addition, those pirates who escaped from the Magic Triangle have launched a frantic attack on our navy. Although the losses are not large, they are still a little troublesome. The soldier continued. Send Lieutenant General Huo Shaoshan and Ghost Spiders to suppress them. Be sure to suppress these pirates. Sengoku thought for a while and replied. Yes, Marshal of the Warring States period. The soldier nodded and gradually left the office. Here, Sengoku and Garp are left. Are you really so relieved to let that Liang go? Carp frowned and asked. His most outstanding thing is his speed, not his strength. I am still very relieved about this. Although we can't catch him, it is also very difficult for him to shake our foundation. Warring States was very confident and smiled and said lightly. Hope it. Carp stood up with a somewhat inexplicable expression on his face, and gradually left. For some reason, he always had an ominous feeling in his heart. But since the Warring States have said so, he is not easy to refute. Watching Garp leave, Sengoku looked out of the window and whispered to himself, the turmoil in the sea is only temporary. I believe it will gradually subside soon, why should I care too much? NLT, 58 and GT. Chapter 065 _ The name of Liang. New World. A huge vessel with a prow decorated with the head of a whale sails on the sea, and where it passes, the sea divides both sides. In the New World, what this ship means, I believe many pirates are very clear in their hearts. This pirate ship is called Moby Dick. And the captain of this ship is called Edward Newgate. He has a nickname called Whitebeard. One of the 4 emperors, the Whitebeard pirates, sails in the waters of the New World. Basically, no pirate ship dared to provoke wherever they went, unless they were seeking their own death. Of course, the collision between the 4 emperors and the 4 emperors is inevitable. Today, the Moby Dick welcomed a grand guest. On the wooden ladder of the boat board, a man with 3 scars on his left eye walked over to the Moby Dick step by step. He has bright red hair, wears a beige long-sleeved shirt, and a black cape. He is of average stature, but he gives a heavy pressure. One of the 4 emperors, the red-haired Shanks. The 4 emperors will meet today. Dang, dang, dang. The redhead stepped on wooden shoes and walked to the Moby Dick step by step, his eyes looking forward. On the Moby Dick, there were already countless pirates looking at the red hair below. You guys, go away. The corner of the Phoenix Marco's mouth moved slightly, waved his hand, and said a little helplessly. What's wrong? Some new members are unknown. Immediately after, the redhead had gone to the board. See. Marco shook his head helplessly and sighed, it's too late. A terrifying aura filled the air, and the overlord was domineering and enveloped the audience. Ah! A group of pirates couldn't bear the oppression of this overlord, their eyes were white, foaming at the mouth, and fell to the ground, unconscious. Redhead, you guy, came to our territory, and it's so uneasy. Marco was a little dissatisfied and said bluntly. Ha ha. The redhead laughed loudly, without much disguise. After all, this is the Whitebeard pirates, which made me a little nervous, so I couldn't help but turn up the domineering. Click. Under the shock of the red-haired terrifying overlord, even the board of the ship was shattered. It's really domineering. Marco looked at the group of new pirates who fell to the ground in front of him, and said helplessly. He immediately had these guys carried away, so as not to be embarrassed here. The red-haired overlord color, even he felt a burst of pressure. These guys, obviously impossible to stop the red-haired overlord color domineering. Red-haired brat. In front, a huge man was lying on a chair with many input tubes on his body. He was feeding nutrient solution into his body to maintain his vitality, and he was also wearing a respirator. Chapter 065 _ The name of Liang. NLT, 59 and GT. In front, a huge man was lying on a chair with many input tubes on his body. He was feeding nutrient solution into his body to maintain his vitality, and he was also wearing a respirator. His white beard was curved like a crescent moon, and his face was full of majesty and imposing manner. Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. Whitebeard. The redhead walked in front of the Whitebeard and said slowly with a smile. In the beginning, when I saw you, it was still on Roger's boat. It made a deep impression on me at that time. I didn't expect that in a blink of an eye, that hairy boy had become the 4th emperor. Whitebeard showed some emotion and said, by the way, what about the red nose? You said Bucky, I haven't seen him in a long time either. The red-haired Shanks smiled lightly and said, however, today, I came here to persuade you not to let Ace and Tiki do it. I always have an ominous premonition, Tiki, and it is far from what it seems on the surface. Simple. Ha 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 ha. The white-bearded Lang Lang laughed and remained unmoved. The most intolerable thing in my life is that someone dares to kill my son. Especially, Tiki, a traitor. By the way, have you heard? In the Great Channel, Titch has already appeared. The red-haired eyes twinkled and said, "Oh, is it?" Whitebeard was a little surprised. After chasing him for so long, he couldn't find any trace of Blackbeard Titch. It turned out that the other party had already fled to the Great Channel, not in the New World. Just in the Great Waterway, a place called the Magic Triangle, there is his trace. Moreover, there are 4 people around him, forming the Blackbeard Pirates. The red-haired face was calm and continued. Blackbeard Pirates. This is really ironic. Whitebeard's eyelids twitched. This name was exactly the opposite of his. It means to stand up to him. The eyeliner I placed in the Great Channel sent back unique news that the Blackbeard Pirates, including Titch himself, had a tragic defeat there. The redhead continued without pausing. Defeat. Who was he defeated by? Whitebeard is a little curious, and he knows the son of Titch very well. He's an ambitious guy with unusual strength. A young man named Liang. There was a hint of interest on the red-haired face, and he smiled. Liang's name is getting louder and louder. Originally, I wanted to pull the other party into the pirate group, but now it seems that there is basically no such opportunity. Even Tiki was defeated by the opponent, which allowed the redhead to preliminarily conclude that Liang's strength was not as simple as he imagined. Liang. I know him, the young man who has been making a lot of noise recently. He also escaped from the advancing city. After this guy Shaki, the second prisoner who escaped from the advancing city. Whitebeard laughed loudly and said, I didn't expect that his strength would actually allow Tick, a traitor, to usher in a defeat. It's not easy. Liang's name has spread almost all over the sea, and even Whitebeard has heard a little. Titch was defeated by a sword. Then, the redhead said again. Well. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed, showing a bit of solemnity. At the same time, his heart was tumbling, and he was also shocked by the news of the red hair. With one sword, defeat Titch. This record is quite terrifying. Even Whitebeards have to be treated with caution. When did such a terrifying figure appear in the ocean? NLT, 60 and GT. Chapter 066_Undercurrent. Hey, is it true? Marco showed a bit of surprise and said in a low voice. Tiki, who took away the dark fruit, is not the one who didn't have the devil fruit at the beginning. Even Marco doesn't think he can beat Tick 100%. The times are changing fast. Red-haired Shanks took out the wine from his hometown and laughed loudly. Anyway, Whitebeard, don't let Ace go after Tiki. He's very weird, and it's not something Ace can deal with. Otherwise, do you think the expression on my face how did the scar come about? Quote. Ha ha ha, red-haired kid, I don't need your intervention when I do things. The Whitebeard laughed loudly, pulled out the infusion tube from his body, and held a large knife, standing tall and straight. The redhead carried a western sword on his waist, the corner of his mouth was slightly raised, and he drew the sword directly. Let me see how the kid from the past has grown. Whitebeard pulled out his big knife and chopped it down quickly. Terrifying momentum, outrageous. With a smile, the redhead was unmoved, holding a western sword, armed with color, and collided with the white-bearded sword, and a terrifying power burst out in an instant. Boom! A tyrannical airflow swept the audience. In the sky, the clouds have cracked a huge and incomparable trace. Dad is still very strong, but the red-haired guy is not weak. The collision between the two of them split the sky, which is extremely terrifying. Marco narrowed his eyes slightly, looking at the clouds that had been cut open in the sky, his face full of admiration. Today, the story of the redhead landing on the Moby Dick alone has taken the New World by storm. Everyone knows that the two emperors of the New World have collided today. Countless pirate ships can be seen several kilometers away. In that scene, even the sky cracked. Suddenly, the sea boiled. The collision of the two four emperors was even more shocking than the news from Liang. As time passed, the news about Liang gradually became introverted. This is the sea, but as time goes on, even if it caused a lot of turmoil at the beginning, over time, it will become uninterested. The Navy headquarters also responded. Li Ang offers a bounty increase, 600 million berry. This bounty, in the Great Channel, represents the most terrifying top pirates. Even if you look at the New World, it is comparable to the top cadres under the four emperors. However, even if this huge bounty was released, no one would disturb Li Ang's clean life. The things that killed thousands of pirates at the beginning are still present in the eyes of countless pirates. This time, except for the collision of the four emperors, everything else seemed very calm. Chapter 066_undercurrent surging. Except for the collision of the four emperors, everything else seemed very calm. But in the dark, undercurrents are surging. Many pirates at sea can feel the seemingly peaceful but dangerous atmosphere of the sea. But such an atmosphere still cannot stop the restless heart of people sailing to sea. Countless pirates poured into the sea. Li Ang's name gradually became precipitation. Except for the Navy headquarters, who still paid attention to Li Ang's every move, the rest of the pirates were all concerned with their own affairs, and didn't know anything about Li Ang anymore. Li Ang's whole person seems to have evaporated from the world, and no sound can be heard again. Since the massacre of thousands of pirates that time, he has never done anything out of the ordinary to let everyone know. Many pirates could not help but have some suspicions. Li Ang, he should be living in seclusion, right? I don't know, but under the pressure of the Navy headquarters, he didn't dare to act rashly. Although he did escape from the advanced city, but that's all, it doesn't mean he has the strength and power to shake the naval headquarters. At this moment, the naval headquarters is staring at him. How dare he act rashly? Forget it, I still don't understand this. However, the New World has been in chaos recently, and the redhead has logged into the Whitebeard pirate ship alone. This thing, I heard people say at the time that the fight between the two cut off even the sky. It was extremely terrifying. This is the real emperor, the top terrifying figure in the New World. Quote. During this time, what almost swept people's ears were both red hair and Whitebeard. The collision between the two is well known. Even the sky was cut off. Suddenly, some people compared Li Ang with the other. What? Are you comparing the redheads to Li Ang? Aren't you asking for trouble? That's right, red-haired and white-bearded, these two are the emperors of the New World, one of the top 4 forces in the New World. What does Li Ang compare with? Yeah, if Li Ang wants to compare with them, it's still a long way off. The fight between those two was cut off. Can Li Ang do it? It's a joke. Countless pirates were talking about it. The sea is in chaos, and countless forces are planning their own affairs. Including the 4 emperors, the rest of the pirates, the Navy headquarters, etc. Even Chihuahua is planning some untold secrets. In this era, there will never be a day of peace. Great Fairway. The Magic Triangle, the Horror Bark. Li Ang stepped on the raft and looked at Corona and the others on the shore, the corners of his mouth curled slightly. Make dinner, wait for me to come back. Chapter 067_ Li Ang dispatched. Yeah. Corona smiled sweetly, nodded, and shook her pink smooth hair. Yugong Moria, Janao Longma and other 4 people watched Li Ang leave, and gradually retracted their sight. My lord, this time, I'm afraid that the sky will collapse. Hogbuck said with lingering fears. The Navy headquarters dares to take the initiative to provoke Lord Li Ang, and naturally it has to bear the consequences. Lord Li Ang is not a soft persimmon, and he is at the mercy of others. Absalom said in a deep voice with a look of anger on his face. Heard. Moonlight Moria showed a touch of interest. This time, the Navy headquarters is really going to make a big noise. Li Ang will start, and the Navy headquarters will not sit idly by. Once a war breaks out between the two sides, this will be the battle of the century. Sir, you won't lose, will you? Hogbuck was a little worried. After all, facing the entire naval headquarters, Li Ang was alone and seemed a little precarious. No. Moonlight Moria's eyes narrowed and she said with certainty. He believes that in this world, no one can kill Liang. It was as if he had already been struck by Liang's original slash, leaving a deep impression on him. At least, at that time, he had never felt the despair in other people. Only Liang gave him absolute despair. Come on, let's go next, it's enough to wait for news from the sea. Moonlight Moria moved, turned around, stepped forward, carrying a huge body and gradually left. At first glance, he still has the feeling of a giant bloodline. This burly figure is not something normal people can have. Sir, you will definitely win. Perona's beautiful eyes flickered, thinking to herself. Immediately, she also gradually left here. Magic triangle. A pirate ship, taking a detour. After the terrifying battle between Liang and many pirate ships did not dare to approach the magic triangle at will. However, there are still some pirate ships that stray into the magic triangle under the interference of the weather. Here, there is a pirate ship sailing in the magic triangle, disturbed by the fog, and lost its sense of direction, full of fear. The pirate ship's flag is a red lion emblem. On board. Captain Monique's face was heavy and he said, "Have you found a sense of direction? Tell the captain that the fog here is too thick to even record the pointer. We seem to have been wandering around here several times, all in circles." The pirate crew replied with panic on their faces. If trapped here, they would starve to death within half a month. The food on board could not provide their constant consumption. Be sure to find a way out of here, Monique said in a low voice with a full face. Chapter 067_Liang is dispatched, NGT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading, Monique said in a low voice with a full face. Yes, Captain. The rest of the crew nodded quickly. But asking them to figure out a way to get out of here is just empty talk. If there was a way, they wouldn't have to hang around here. Afterwards, the pirate ship sailed in the sea, wandering in this sea all the time, but could not escape the foggy area of the magic triangle, and could not see the direction of departure. Wait. Monique shrank his pupils, waved his hand, and said, "There seems to be someone there." People. Many crew members looked away. Sure enough, in the foggy area, you can clearly see that a figure, walking on a raft, is gradually sailing, right next to them. Maybe, if we follow him, we can go out. Monique's face was excited for a while, and he said quickly. No, Captain, look, this man looks familiar. A crew member lost his voice. Suddenly, Monique took a closer look, and the face of the figure that appeared from the mist also appeared in his eyes. This man, very young, but in his 20s. But it was this person's face that instantly made Monique stiff, his lips trembling. It's him. Captain, who is it? People were puzzled and asked. Originally, I thought he had retreated. But now, it's not like that at all. Is he going to shoot? My God, the sea is boiling again. Monique's throat was dry, and his face was full of fear. Captain, who is he? Monique took a deep breath and moved his lips slightly. He is the bounty of 600 million berries, and there was a lot of trouble some time ago. Liang. Liang. Is that Liang who escaped from the advanced city and killed thousands of pirates? It's very possible. It is said that he is in the magic triangle. We actually met him. Shouldn't he kill us? I don't want to die here. Don't be noisy, be quiet, we're all going to die. Quote. In an instant, everyone on the whole ship fell into silence. Their eyes couldn't hide a look of horror, and they watched Liang leave. It wasn't until Liang stepped on the raft and disappeared from their sight that they exhaled heavily. Captain, you say, where is Liang going? What is he going to do? A pirate asked curiously. I think, this time, something really big is going to happen. S eyes flickered and his tone was low. P.S. Ask for flowers. Ask for comments. Thank you. Chapter 068 G4 Naval Branch. Great Fairway. The G4 Naval Branch is located in the middle of Sagni Island and Vion Island. The islands on both sides are prosperous, but there is still a lot of distance. Probably, the two islands reached the G4 branch. According to normal circumstances, it took 2 hours to sail before reaching the Naval Branch Fortress. Every branch fortress is guarded by a Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. And the G4 Naval Branch, a Lieutenant General guarding here, named Lonzi. He has the blood of the giant family, is tall and has a strong force. At this time, inside the G4 Naval Branch Fortress, one by one, the Navy was digging his feet leisurely on the playground, looking like he didn't care. Under normal circumstances, the Navy is in training at this time. But the Navy in the G4 Branch Fortress is completely different. They are lazy, don't need training, and no one blames them. In the end, it was because Lieutenant General Lance was too relaxed and did not manage them. What are you going to eat at noon? It is said that we have a beautiful nurse here. After dinner, go get acquainted. That's a good feeling. In this branch where birds don't lay eggs, I can't even see a woman. It's really uncomfortable. No, but fortunately, we are very peaceful here, and there are no pirates attacked. Yeah, I just saw that the G4 branch was too comfortable, and I didn't need to go out to perform tasks on weekdays, so I applied for dispatch. It's too easy here. Quote. A group of Navy is playing cards in piles. That's right. They've gotten to the point where they can use their training time to play poker. If there are no people from the Navy headquarters to inspect, they will repeat such a leisurely day every day. Lying down with the berry given by the Navy headquarters is simply beautiful. And Lieutenant General Longs didn't take care of these people under his command, but he was lazy and fell asleep. The huge G4 branch did not even hear the sound of training. A quiet, eerily quiet. Come on, play the cards, don't fuck your mother-in-law. A Navy said impatiently. I said, are we going to go down with such a salted fish? Is it a symbolic training? A Navy asked suspiciously. If you want to train, you go by yourself. Anyway, there have been no pirates attacking here for so many years. We just need to live happily. As for the so-called training, what can we do even if we train? After training, can you find the pirates to fight? You still have to play cards here in the branches we have been doing. So, training, it's meaningless. Hurry up and play your cards and stop talking. A group of Navy looked leisurely. Chapter-61-80 G4 Naval Branch. A group of Navy looked leisurely. The large naval branch revealed a lazy atmosphere. Branch G4, known for being lazy. This is known to many people, here, also known as the concentration of lazy people. The old fritters who are not enterprising want to enter here, in order to ensure a comfortable and easy job, and to take Bailey from the Navy headquarters for nothing. Why not do it? Of course. In the G4 branch, there are also many navies who do evil things. On weekdays, they are too boring, so they pretend to be some pirates and go to the nearby island to snatch some supplies. This is something that many people are well aware of. It can be seen that the entire Navy branch, in fact, has not done anything the Navy is supposed to do except the Navy uniform it wears. Not even training. On the contrary, looting supplies under the banner of pirates is simply disgusting. But these things, as a lieutenant general, Longs also turned a blind eye. Anyway, it was none of his business, so he didn't need to pay attention. What's more, after the Navy who went out to loot the supplies came back, they would still give him a lot of wealth, which was enough for him to keep his mouth shut and avoid talking about it. Come on, let's eat. A Navy stretched his lazy waist and said slowly. The sun rose in the middle to the central area, and the sun was shining down, but the G4 branch still looked lifeless and had no vitality at all. There is a bit of smog again, gathering gambling, talking about women's exposed topics and so on. Just like the ruffians on the roadside, there is nothing they dare not say. Anyway, no one here controls their speech, and they are even more reckless. Let's go, Today's big harvest, I'm going to find a woman to play with. Are you a treat? My treat, you guys, you don't even have a berry for a woman, it's just too sad. My berry, you've won it all, you're too embarrassed to say it. Quote. At this moment, in the sea next to the G4 Naval Branch Fortress, on a raft, a young man gradually approached. This person is Li Ang. G4 Naval Branch Fortress closest to him. For the sake of convenience, he moved forward with this branch fortress as the goal. Finally, the goal is already at hand. Chapter-69-descending to the Navy Branch open black lens bracket for flowers. Ask for comments. Close black lens bracket. Navy G4 Branch Fortress. The Lieutenant General guarding here is a Lieutenant General of the giant family called Lonzi. Moreover, this branch fortress does not have much favor in people's mouths. It is said that the nearby islands are often plundered by pirates. Many people have suspected that it is the naval thieves of the G4 branch who are calling to catch the thieves. In this way, if I kill this branch, it doesn't seem to be a crime. On the contrary, I am eliminating violence and peace. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a smile. He carried the black sword Chushui on his waist, which was borrowed from the sword master Longma when he left the magic triangle. This time, the battle that is going to break out will definitely involve the use of swordsmanship. He stepped on the raft and followed the current, gradually approaching the G4 branch. The branch fortress is a fortress, surrounded by a circle and blocked by high walls. Not everyone can easily approach it. On the fence, there are still some lights, illuminated at night, and patrolled during the day. Once there are any changes around the sea, or pirate ships, the patrolling navies will find the problem as soon as possible and issue a warning. Although Li Ang's own goal is very small, if it is too close to the G4 branch fortress, it will still be discovered by these navies. Therefore, when it is about to reach the branch fortress, Li Ang kicked his feet. Boom! With a sound, the entire raft sank to the bottom of the sea, and was stepped on the bottom of the sea by a huge force. Li Ang jumped up and looked down at the branch fortress below. The corner of his mouth evoked a meaningful arc. Today, let the people in the Navy headquarters understand. Provoking me will cost a price. Regardless of the position of the Navy representative. Good or bad, it has little to do with Li Ang. Even if he is a good person, but if he offends Li Ang and touches his bottom line, he will ruthlessly kill him. This is a difference of position. Take, for example, the group of Blackbeards. Did someone say they were good people? No. They are uncompromising villains. But Li Ang still did not kill them, because the two sides had the same position and were opposed to the naval headquarters. Moreover, Li Ang did not want to be used as a gunner by the Navy headquarters. So, even if it was the bad guy, he let Blackbeard and others leave. As for the huge impact and damage that the other party will have on the world after he leaves, he doesn't care at all. This is just the beginning. Li Ang's eyes flashed brightly, and he jumped up. In the blink of an eye, he was standing on the wall of the branch fortress. His speed was too fast. In an instant, he landed on the ground from above the wall, and sprinted forward, standing on the roof of a tall building. A breeze blew in, rolling up his black hair. Chapter-69-descending to the Navy branch open black lens bracket for flowers. Ask for comments. And GT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. A breeze blew in, rolling up his black hair. In his opinion, the so-called defense of the entire naval branch was vulnerable. He couldn't even find his traces. He quietly entered the naval branch fortress. However, those patrolling did not realize that their home base had been invaded by Li Ang. Next, a good show is about to debut. If the fortress of the branch is destroyed, the loss to the naval headquarters will still be huge. What I want is this effect. Li Ang said with a smile. Branch G4 is his first target. That is, he has more than one goal. This time, he quietly attacked the branch fortress. Next time, he will blatantly challenge the majesty of the Navy headquarters. Anyone from the Navy headquarters is a soft persimmon, and anyone can pinch it. There is a heavy price to pay for this. Come on, buddies, go out and find women. After this game, do you want to run? I will definitely win this game. Who is afraid of who? Come and come, you all lost, don't blame me. Quote. A group of Navy is still playing cards, unaware that they are already facing the threat of death. Above the tallest building, Li Ang stood on the edge of the fence, and if he took another step, he would face the danger of falling tens of meters above. But in his view, this is not threatening at all. Looking for a woman, gathering. Li Ang showed a touch of interest and said with a smile, this naval branch is not easy. The Navy inside has actually fallen to such a degree that if I wipe out this G4 branch fortress, it will be regarded as helping the naval headquarters to clear the door. But don't thank me, I'm just doing it by hand. After speaking, Li Ang rolled his eyes and glanced at the surrounding towering buildings. Undeniable. The Navy has done a very good job in construction. At first glance, the towering building is breathtaking and exudes a solemn majesty. It's a nice building, but unfortunately it's about to be destroyed. So where do I start? The corners of Li Ang's mouth moved slightly, and he said with a faint smile. Chapter 070_Heavenly/. Then, Li Ang kicked his feet and jumped straight up, standing on top of another building. From here, you can see the whole view of the entire naval branch. The area is not small and the number of people is not large, but just today, they will usher in the disaster of destruction. Anyway, where to start? The final result is already doomed, so let's go. The corners of Li Ang's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly. He took out the black sword Chushui from his waist and borrowed the sword of the swordsman Longma, but he had to return it. Of course. The swordsman Longma wanted to present this famous sword to Li Ang, but Li Ang did not accept it. At this time, Li Ang held the black knife Chushui in his right hand, slowly raised his arm, and looked at the folded buildings in front of him without any emotional fluctuations. A monstrous sword energy surged. The atmosphere of terror permeated and suppressed. At the same time, inside the Lieutenant General's office in the naval branch. As a warrior of the giant clan, Long's office is naturally very spacious. He was reading a newspaper leisurely at this time. The S of the newspapers and magazines recorded that Li Ang killed thousands of pirates a few days ago. Li Ang, do you still want to challenge the majesty of the Navy headquarters? It's a joke. Long's Lang laughed and said very comfortably. Anyway, he doesn't think he will suffer. All in all, no matter where there is a war, it will not be affected here. He can stay here very comfortably, unless the Navy headquarters transfers him back, or he can always enjoy the life of the Emperor here. At this moment, a sword energy filled the air. Long's pupils shrank, his face full of fear. He quickly raised his head and looked at the ceiling. What's going on? This momentum. Even he felt a shivering breath, and he actually appeared in the naval branch. This is something that he has been guarding here for decades and has never happened. Immediately, Long's left the office and walked to the open environment in front of him, looking at the sky with a look of surprise, but when he caught his eye, there was a vast blue sky and white clouds. He couldn't see anything, but the sword energy became more intense, making the pressure in his heart heavier. Immediately, Long's raised his brows, looked at the lazy Navy in front of him, and shouted, "Come here for me." A group of Navy did not dare to neglect. They came quickly and asked, "Lieutenant General, what's the matter? Have you found anything suspicious?" Long's frowned and asked. "No, it's quiet here." I said, "Lieutenant General, you are too sensitive. Our branch fortress, where birds don't lay eggs, won't be invaded by pirates. You can rest assured." "Yes, Lieutenant General, we have never found any outsiders here. If there was an outsider, it would have alerted you long ago." The Navy quickly explained that, indeed, they did not see the intruder at all. Chapter 070_Skyfall/. The Navy quickly explained that, indeed, they did not see the intruder at all. Because intruders, it is impossible for them to be discovered by these rabble. Not right. Lance shook his head, he always felt that something was wrong. This breath came from the air, and he could feel it very clearly. However, the group of Navy in front of them has not been found. Adhering to his own keen sense of crisis, Lanzi's skin had goosebumps. Such a feeling has not appeared for a long time. Immediately, dispatch personnel to search the branch. Lance shouted with a worried look on his face. Lieutenant General, no need. A Navy's lips moved slightly and said. What did you say? Lance looked at the Navy and shouted, are you going to disobey my orders? No. The Navy slowly raised his right hand, with some trembling fingertips pointing to the sky, tremblingly said, I think, I have seen an intruder. What? Lance turned pale in shock, raised his head, and looked up at the sky. All the navies look at the scene above the sky. At this time, the white clouds have covered the sun, but there is still a dazzling light that is attacking down from the sky, and the speed is indescribable. Call out. A dazzling slash traversed the roof of a building. At this moment, attention is paid to. The speed of this slash was too fast, and when people discovered its existence, it had already reached its destination. Everyone's eyes are fixed on that building. Boom. A loud bang. The terrifying sound made people's ears buzz. A building, after this slash hit, can be seen with the naked eye. Puff, puff. The building was crushed into pieces, and pieces of broken stone were thrown around, falling to the ground and rolling. This building instantly turned into a pile of ruins. Smoke billows, obscuring people's vision. The ground shook as if an earthquake had occurred. Some Navy officers were unsteady, slumped on the ground, their faces sluggish, and their expressions were full of fear. What is the situation? Chapter 071_The end is coming. Where did the attack come from? And in an instant, destroyed a building more than 30 meters away. Lanzi's lips were a little dry, and he lost his voice. Seeing the ruins in front of him made him almost paralyzed with fright. The G4 branch has always been peaceful. There has been no invasion of pirates. Even the pirate ship has hardly seen a single one pass by here for a year and a half. Not to mention, there will be enemies coming to attack. However, today, they meet. Just met, it is such a terrifying enemy. They don't even know where the enemy is, who the enemy is, what the enemy is going to do, etc. They only know one thing, there is an enemy attack. Enemy attack, enemy attack. A group of Navy shouted loudly, looking terrified. For a moment, the naval alarm was raised, and the huge naval branch was in chaos, and at the same time, there were bursts of sharp and ear-piercing sounds. Woo-hoo. The Navy's siren has been circulated for a long time, so that countless sleeping navies, eating Navy, bathing Navy, everyone can clearly hear it. My God, there is an enemy attacking, everyone get ready. A group of Navy swarmed, quickly got rid of the things at hand, and arrived at the scene. In the face of crisis, their speed is still very fast. Unfortunately, they couldn't even see the shadow of the enemy, only the destroyed building. Not knowing who the enemy is what makes people even more frightened. Even the enemy didn't know, but the building was directly destroyed, how did they fight? Moreover, in the destroyed building, there were many naval presences. However, what are their results? Needless to say, they are all dead, crushed into stones, and the dead cannot die any longer. Next, the remaining Navy will also face terrifying attacks. Quick, defend now. Lanzi was anxious and shouted loudly. There is an enemy attacking, and he doesn't even know who the enemy is, which can't help but feel fear. This sharp slash even made him feel the threat of death. Quick, quick. Numerous naval turmoil, patrolling the naval branch, armed with sophisticated weapons and equipment. They didn't know that now all of them, in Liang's eyes, were a group of weak sheep, trapped in a cage, waiting for death to come. Who is it, so bold, that he dares to attack the naval branch? Long's face was full of panic, gritted his teeth, and roared. Openly attacking the naval branch is a challenge to the majesty of the naval headquarters. Even if the pursuit goes to the ends of the earth, the naval headquarters will not let the opponent go. In this sea, who has such courage? Challenge the majesty of the Navy, which is against the world government. Chapter 071_The End is Coming. NGT, page 1/2. Please click the next page to continue reading. Challenge the majesty of the Navy, which is against the world government. The world is so big that there is no room for it anymore. Who is it? Who is it? Sudden. Lance was stunned. He stared blankly at a bright light in the sky, his lips trembling, dumbfounded. Call out. The second dazzling slash fell from the sky and enveloped a building. Boom. Another building was destroyed. It was crushed, and even the ground had a bottomless pit. Such terrifying lethality was terrifying. The ground was shaking like an earthquake. Many of the Navy were unsteady and fell to the ground, fear rising. Everyone saw that the second building was destroyed. It was as if the end had come. A slash destroyed a building dozens of meters, and even penetrated the ground, which was built with the strongest material. Even so, the buildings that were destroyed were still so swift and violent, without any sloppiness, and extremely fierce. Pieces of broken stones were thrown all over the place. Some navies were unlucky, their heads were directly smashed by stones, and they died on the spot. And the navy in that building is even more unfortunate. All of them were killed. Under the attack of this terrifying force, no one can survive from the building, which is well known to everyone. Lieutenant General, what should I do? Countless navies looked to Lonzi for advice. All the navy have no masters. Under the domination of such terrifying power, they have no ability to resist. It's not that they don't want to resist. Rather, how do they resist? Can't even see the shadow of the enemy. Who are they looking for? Ask for the support of the Navy headquarters, yes, otherwise, we will all die. Although we don't know who the enemy is, such an enemy is far from being able to compete with us. Longs took a deep breath and calmed down the panic in his heart, said. After seeing these two slashes and destroying two buildings, Longs already understood in his heart. The enemy that appeared at this moment is far from being able to contend with a mere branch. It doesn't matter who the other party is. The important thing is that he must seek shelter from the strength of the naval headquarters, otherwise, the huge branch will be destroyed and sunk to the bottom of the sea. He had no idea that under such terrifying forces, the G4 branch would still be able to defend. Support must be requested. Without support, with so many of them, there is only one result. That is, wait to die. Chapter 072_request support. Please order first. Please customize. 1/10. The G4 branch is already very chaotic. Countless navy armed with guns, looking up at the sky. But where can I see the so-called enemy? Not even a shadow. Don't panic, don't panic. The Lieutenant General has already gone to ask for support. As long as we can persevere, the General will arrive soon and we can get rescue. That's right, brothers, hold on, we can't let ourselves go at this time. But where is the enemy? And, can we really hold out for so long? Quote. The Navy formed a group after another, and everyone's face was full of horror, unable to speak. Sudden. A bright light descended from the sky. Come again, run away. A navy was terrified and ran away. Seeing this bright light, how dare he stay here? Call out. The slash instantly reached the roof of a building. Boom. Another building was instantly crushed into powder, and the shattered stones were thrown around. The unfortunate person was pierced by the impact of the stone and died on the spot. The navy is dead and wounded. This day is the nightmare in their hearts. They had never experienced something so horrible before, and it was their first time. Someone dared to openly provoke the Navy headquarters. Moreover, they started to attack the Navy branch. Dead, they're all dead. A group of Navy was dumbfounded, looking at the third destroyed building and the many corpses next to it. Their hands and feet were cold and their scalps were numb. It's not that they are timid, it can only be said that this scene is too frightening. Longs, who was a lieutenant general, also walked to his office. Fortunately, his office has not been destroyed. But he didn't dare to stay here. With a worried face, he quickly walked to the office and dialed the phone bug. No one could say for sure whether the terrifying attack would fall on his head in an instant. He could only use this urgent time to request support from the Navy headquarters. Boo boo. Listen now. Lonzi looked anxious and shouted loudly. The situation is now quite serious. If you delay time here, it will increase the chance of death for the countless navies in the branch. Finally, the phone was wormed, and the voice of the warring states came out. G4 branch. You are Lonzi, what do you have to do with me? Marshal of the warring states, something is going badly tilde. Long's face was full of fear, and he said quickly, someone attacked the branch fortress, and 2 buildings have been destroyed in a row. The number of dead navies is countless. What? Who is it? The voice of the warring states was obviously sharp, with a bit of shock. It can be seen that even he did not expect that someone would dare to rashly attack the Navy branch and be so blatant, which is a bit scary. I don't know. Longs shook his head and answered quickly. Whether the enemy is a person or a group of people, can't you tell the difference? Warring states frowned and asked. We can only see that a slash from the sky destroyed a building in an instant, and not even the slag was left. The Navy inside was all killed. As for the enemy, I didn't see it all the way. Longs couldn't help himself in a hurry, said. Boom. Another loud noise came. Longs's eyes became more frightened, and he shouted, Marshal of the warring states period, please send the generals here, we will not be able to hold on here any longer. Wait, I will immediately dispatch Kizaru to block it. Then, I will dispatch Aokiji and Akainu to pass over one after another. We will never be soft on those who dare to challenge the majesty of the Navy headquarters. Sengoku took a deep breath, realizing that the current situation did not allow him to continue to ask, and immediately said. Marshal of the warring states period, please help quickly. Lonzi was terrified, his lips trembling. There were loud noises in his ears, and the ground under his feet caused a lot of turmoil. This made his whole being dominated by fear. Just horrible. Who is this? Who can do such terrible destruction? I see, you block him first. Warring states nodded, said. But his words, in Longs's ears, made Longs only accept it bitterly. Block. What do you use to block the opponent? Chapter 072_request support. Please order first. Please customize. 1/10. What do you use to block the opponent? They can't even figure out the other party's trail, who is the enemy, how many people there are, and these basic information have not been obtained, how can they block it? After hanging up the phone bug, Longs kicked his feet and quickly fled the office. Now, whoever is in the building is most likely to be killed. Longs didn't want to be crushed to death by this building, even his giants would be cut in half under that terrifying slash. Even if the slash did not hit him head-on and the building collapsed, it would crush him to pieces. Run away. Longs's eyes were full of panic, and he quickly fled the office. Just when he stepped out of the office and walked out of the open space in front of him. In an instant, a bright light descended from the sky. Boom. This building instantly turned into powder and ceased to exist. Longs was shocked by the impact and slumped on the ground, staring blankly at the scene of ruins ahead, his lips trembling, and the fear in his heart was infinitely amplified. Almost, he was going to die in it. It's all right, all right. Longs felt a lingering fear in his cold sweat, and almost made his legs go weak with fright. Gradually he stood up and turned around, ready to huddle the Navy in a hurry. But when he turned around, his entire face stiffened. Front. A mess and devastated. The collapsed buildings are terrifying. Under the terrifying slash, nearly a dozen buildings were destroyed. This is already all the buildings in the branch fortress. Today, all have been destroyed. What frightened Lonzi was not because the building was destroyed, but because the building was destroyed. Where will the attack be directed next? Thinking of this, Lonzi trembled unbearably, the corners of his mouth trembled, and shouted. Everyone, spread out, don't move around. Only by dispersing can some people survive. If you form a group, one slash will kill a group of people. Yes, Lieutenant General. Although a group of navies were afraid, they were able to maintain their last sanity and nodded hurriedly. They obeyed the command and spread quickly, like ants, scattered. Who is the enemy? Many navies were terrified, raised their heads and looked at the sky. Where is the enemy? They don't know. Looking at the sky, as if waiting for death to come, there is no resistance at all. Sudden. A dazzling light came again. Everyone smelled death. Boom. The slash hit the ground, piercing the entire floor, revealing the incomparably dark hole. Ah! Countless navy wailed constantly, and was directly obliterated by this slash. Some of the navies who were shocked by the aftermath all let out painful mourning. On the ground, incomplete corpses, like hell, are extremely terrifying. Zhao Wanghao is the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. Longs didn't dare to say a word at this moment, his lips trembled, and in his eyes, there was nothing but fear. This is the biggest catastrophe in the history of the G4 branch, and it has never happened before. Today, they meet. Being able to survive is an unknown. On the sky. At the top of a high tower, a young man's figure, fearless and independent, without any emotion, looked at the many navies below, unmoved. Li Ang held a black knife in autumn water. His face was calm, even if he killed countless navies and caused the death of countless lives, he did not feel any regret. Then, let this naval branch disappear into the sea. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly and slowly raised his right hand. Under the sunlight, the black blade of the autumn water blade reflects light, and the extremely sharp blade brings a chilly aura, and the temperature of the surrounding generation plummets. A terrifying sword aura filled the surroundings. Knife up and down. Li Ang pushed the ultimate swordsmanship with all his strength, and the autumn water of the black knife fell slowly, as if cutting through the air. For a moment. A fierce and dazzling record fell from the sky. Chapter 073 _ the three will move together. Please order first. Please customize. 2/10. In an empty square. Lance was soothing the navy. Everyone, don't worry, I have informed the Warring States Marshal. As long as you persist, the general will come. Everyone has heard about the speed of General Yellow Monkey, and I believe that the general's support will be very fast. Everyone, relax. After General Kazaru, General Iokiji, General Akainu, they will all come to support. Anyone who desecrates the majesty of the navy will be killed without mercy. So, you don't have to worry too much, we just need to support it for a while and that's it. Longs took a deep breath and said to the navy in front. Under his words, as expected, many navies were soothed and their fears subsided. Yes, as long as we try to block it, we can live until the general arrives. Brothers, the lieutenant general is right, we must persevere. The three generals are on their way, and we don't need to fear any enemies. Quote. The morale of a group of navy gradually rose, and they said with a firm expression. Seeing that the morale of the navy was gradually recovering, Lons felt a little relieved. Just as he was about to speak. On the sky. A dazzling record quickly hit the ground. Just in Lonzi's sight, he stabbed into the ground violently. The speed is so fast that only one light can be seen flashing away. 357 rumble. A loud bang. All ears were buzzing. Long stared blankly at the scene in front of him. In this lifetime, I am afraid that he will not be able to forget it. Click. The ground cracked. Under the destruction brought about by this terrifying slash, this huge naval branch was torn apart inch by inch. What terrifying power is it to bring about such a scene? Countless navies were also stunned. Their fighting spirit was instantly poured into a pan of cold water, and they were dumbfounded. Click, click. A sharp and harsh voice came out. The ground shook, and many navies could not stand firm. A navy pointed to the crack in front of him and lost his voice. Branch, it will be cut in half. Boom. The branch fortress shook. Everyone standing on the floor could feel that the huge naval branch fortress was about to be divided into two. A terrifying slash fell from the sky. It traverses all areas of the entire branch fortress. In the middle position, it splits directly. The branch fortress on the left is dumping to the sea, as is the one on the right. The navy who survived standing on the floor was full of fear, and the fighting spirit that had just emerged disappeared in an instant without a trace and no longer existed. It's terrible, you can already see the sea. A navy pointed at the crack and said in fear. The fortress, which is divided into two, is gradually increasing the distance. And people can also see that under the terrifying crack in the middle, the sea water flows and throws up. Silence. Everyone's heart was covered with a shadow, their hands and feet were cold, and their fear was extreme. The huge branch fortress was cut in half. Whoa! The sea water was thrown up and dripped between the cracks of the cracked branch fortress. The audience was silent, staring blankly at the scene in front of him. I'm afraid, this is the most unbelievable thing they have seen in their lifetime. Even the enemy didn't see it, but the naval branch had already lost its troops, and the fortress of the large branch was about to sink to the bottom of the sea. Lonzi said in fear, too scary. He didn't even think that the terrifying level of the enemy had reached this level. I'm afraid, even the generals are just like that. He was in the right half of the branch fortress, staring blankly at the left half of the fortress, which was gradually moving away, and there was a group of navies on it, shouting in panic. Exactly, who is it? Lonzi's lips moved slightly, and his whole body was dominated by fear. Boom. Suddenly, there was a loud noise. A figure fell from the sky, fell to the ground in an instant, fell to the ground with both feet, and raised bursts of dust. Moreover, even the ground has smashed a deep pit. Chapter 073 _ the three will move together. Please order first. Please customize. 2/10. Moreover, even the ground has smashed a deep pit. There was a slight vibration in the remaining half of the branch fortresses. Smoke billows, blocking people's vision. Lonzi and all the rest of the navy looked at him. They saw a figure in the smoke ahead, gradually becoming clear. Gradually. The figure walked out of that piece of smoke and gradually revealed his face. In an instant, Longs, including the rest of the navy, was shocked. It's actually you. With a smile on his face, Liang stood in front of Longs and all the navy, holding a black ABFG knife. His body was spotless, with a sharp sword aura that swept the audience. That's right, it's me, surprised. The corners of Liang's mouth were slightly raised, his eyes looked straight ahead, and he smiled faintly. ... Naval Headquarters, Marin Vando. Sengoku stood on the coast, looking at the sea in front of him, his brows furrowed. Beside him stood two old friends, Garp and Lieutenant General Crane. They all opened their mouths and asked, "What's the matter, in such a hurry?" "It's a big event, someone has done something to the G4 branch, and now it's in jeopardy," the Warring States said in a heavy tone. "Well..." Hizanju narrowed his eyes and said, "For many years, nothing like this has happened. It's surprising, but if the three boys of Huang Yuan pass by, it will be foolproof." Garp still trusts the strength of the three generals of Kizaru. Behind the two, a group of Navy soldiers were shocked. Just now, they saw an unforgettable scene in their life. The three generals are dispatched together. My God, what happened? All three generals were dispatched at the same time. I don't know, but it must be very serious. I have a hunch that the sea is going to be in chaos again. A group of Navy whispered, full of horror talking. The three generals are dispatched, and this is the first time they have seen it. From the G4 branch fortress, above the sky. A group of golden light flashed away at a very fast speed. He is one of the three admirals of the Navy, Kizaru, Pulsolino. It's almost there. Kizaru narrowed his eyes slightly, looking at the sea in front of him, advancing at full speed. Whoosh! A ball of golden light disappeared in place without a trace. At the same time, a warship, carrying two generals, Akainu and Aokiji, kept approaching the G4 branch fortress. The three generals are dispatched at the same time, and this picture is rare. This is also enough to prove that what happened on the sea is definitely very serious, otherwise, the three generals would not need to be dispatched at the same time. Dare to openly challenge the majesty of the Navy headquarters, the crime is unforgivable. Akainu's face was gloomy, the corners of his mouth moved slightly, and he said, "The whole distance is not too far. When Kyabu arrives with 1 foot, their hind foot will follow." Aokiji stood on the deck, looking forward, showing a bit of solemnity. This is a serious situation. Someone has openly attacked the fortress of the naval branch. It must be handled with caution. The warship is advancing at full speed. The goal is the same, the G4 branch fortress. No matter who you are, you will endure justice. Akainu's face was still extremely gloomy, and a mass of magma surged on his body, showing his tyrannical strength. Beside him, Aokiji's whole body turned into ice cubes, emitting icy cold smoke. This time, he rarely agreed with Akainu's opinion. Whoever has done such a bad thing must be judged. The speed of the warship is terrifying. Gradually, G4 naval branch in front of the fortress. Akainu and Aokiji looked at the sea in front of them without any emotional fluctuations on their faces. And this time, Kizaru is less than 300 meters away from the G4 branch. He was flying high in the sky, looking down, and could already vaguely see the existence of the G4 branch ahead. His eyes flashed. "I'm here." Chapter 074_Hello, Yellow Ape. Please order first. Please customize. 3/10. Sunny. The waves of the sea rolled and rippled. G4 Naval Branch. The naval branch, which had been divided into two, no longer looked so solemn and solemn. Buildings collapsed into ruins, and the ground was pierced with holes and devastated. The huge naval branch has been reduced to ruins, and it is vaguely showing the situation of sinking to the bottom of the sea. It is still floating at sea today, and it is only temporary. "Yes, it's you." The giant Long stared at Liang, his lips trembling and his face full of shock. "You are the man who escaped from the advanced city, Liang. Actually, it was you who did something to our navy. Do you know what this means? The three generals have already been dispatched, so just wait to die. Anyone who challenges the majesty of the navy is extremely sinful. Liang, you are sinful, and when the general arrives, it will be your end." Countless navy spoke one after another, looking at Liang's eyes, full of fear. You must know that Liang in front of him is a terrifying man who slaughtered thousands of pirates by himself. In the face of such a terrifying existence, how could their ordinary navy not be afraid? Not to mention, it seems that the naval branch was destroyed because of Liang in front of him. The slashing from the sky destroyed the branch fortress and divided it into two. It is not normal for such fierce people to say that they have no fear in their hearts. "Three generals, you really look down on me." Liang's eyes narrowed slightly, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, he said. Holding the black knife Chushui, he walked forward step by step. Longs looked flustered, took a half step back, and said solemnly, "I advise you to leave here as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the three great futures arrive, you won't be able to escape even if you want to." You're really confident. There's something you probably don't know. Li Ang shook his head and smiled lightly, said. What? Longs looked at Li Ang in surprise and asked. The 3 generals in your mouth, the fastest yellow ape, have already met me. When I just escaped from the Push City, the first person I met was him. But think about it, in the end, did he have any keep me? Li Ang said with a smile. Immediately, Longs's expression was stiff and he was unable to speak. If Kizaru keeps Li Ang will not be able to escape smoothly. Obvious. In the end, Kizaru couldn't keep Li Ang, so Li Ang's escape from the advanced city would sweep the entire sea area and let many pirates know about it. This also means that Li Ang is not afraid of the yellow monkey at all. You. Longs's lips trembled, and his eyes were horrified. The Navy headquarters wants to plot against me, but there is a price to pay. And you, I'm sorry, just use it to fill the anger in my heart. It can also be regarded as a long memory for the Navy headquarters. Li Ang approached Longs step by step, holding the black knife Chushui, exuding a fierce aura. This momentum swept the audience, covering Lance and all the Navy. As if on his shoulders, he was suppressed by a huge stone, unable to move. At this moment, in their heads, they finally recalled the fear of being dominated by the slash from the sky. And Li Ang in front of him is the culprit, the only enemy. Incredible. With just one person, they can destroy their huge naval branch. Here it is. Li Ang stopped in his footsteps, his eyelids twitched, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he smiled faintly. Immediately after, his figure was in Lonzi's sight and gradually disappeared. The speed is so amazing that it is impossible to capture. Disappeared. Longs's eyes widened, not knowing why. At the edge of the sky, a dazzling golden light instantly reached the ground. The figure of Kizaru appeared in Longs's eyes, his expression became excited, and he shouted, General Kizaru, you are here. Chapter 074_Hello, Yellow Ape. Please order first. Please customize. 3/10. The figure of Kizaru appeared in Longs's eyes, his expression became excited, and he shouted, General Kizaru, you are here. What's the matter? Kizaru raised his brows, and the Navy branch was divided into 2. In the distance, the building that was reduced to a ruin was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, the situation was beyond his expectations. The branch fortress was damaged so badly that even if it were to be restored, it would take the year of the monkey to rebuild it. The entire branch was split into 2 by a terrifying slash, which made Kizaru a little trembling. Those who can do such terrifying destruction are also among the best in this sea. Where's the enemy? Kizaru then asked, and glanced at the corpse of the Navy on the ground. His face became more and more gloomy. The enemy, there is only one person. Longs still had lingering fears, his face full of astonishment, and hurriedly said, he is. Who is it? Kizaru looked expressionless, looked at Longs's terrified expression, and said, calm down first, Akainu and Aokiji will come later. There is no enemy that the 3 of us can't face. Even the 4 emperors are not enough. Fear. So, calm me down now and make it clear what's going on. Who is the enemy? 0 flowers. Kizaru's gaze was fixed on Longs's face, and his voice unconsciously calmed Longs's mood swings. But it can cause Longs to feel so terrified, and who the enemy is, also makes Kizaru a little curious. Longs is the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. This means that Lonzi's own strength is quite powerful. An enemy who can make him so fearful should not be underestimated. Is there such a person in this sea? Could it be those monsters from the 4 emperors? Impossible. How could the 4 emperors and these monsters come here for no reason to attack the naval branch? This is meaningless. The 2 have nothing to do with each other. The Navy headquarters will not take the initiative to provoke the 4 emperors, and the 4 emperors will not take the initiative to attack the Navy headquarters. Unless it's Kaido's lunatic, the lunatic looking for a duel will do this. 0. But Kaido's lunatics are looking for strong people. As for the naval branch, it can't get into the eyes of the other party at all, so how can it come to destroy it? For a while, Kizaru was at a loss, and had a vague understanding of the enemy. If it wasn't for the 4 emperors, who would have such terrifying strength? He is. Lance took a deep breath and opened his mouth slowly. At the same time, Huang Yuan's pupils shrank, his body stiffened, and he could clearly feel it. Behind him, a man appeared, staring at him with a terrifying aura. Hey, is it true? The lazy expression on Kizaru's face dissipated, and without turning around, he said slowly, is he actually an enemy of this level? This is really nerve-wracking. This terrifying momentum made him have to take it seriously. I'm afraid, this enemy is not simple. Then who are you? Huang Yuan moved his footsteps and turned around, with a smile on the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were very dignified. Finally, Kizaru saw a person standing behind him. This was a young man in his 20s. He was also smiling and staring at himself. Hello, Yellow Ape. Liang smiled, holding the black sword Chushui. His body was surging, and he looked at the yellow monkey. So, it's you. Huang Yuan's eyelids twitched, looking at Liang. He was startled at first. But he quickly recovered, and at the same time, his face gradually became heavy. Unexpectedly, here, I met Liang again. Chapter 075_Shibe should be treated with admiration for 3 days. Please order first. Please customize. 4/10. G4 branch. The other half of the branch fortress gradually opened up in the flow of seawater. The navy above screamed in panic. Is it going to sink to the bottom of the sea? There are no warships for us to use now. If it sinks to the bottom of the sea, we will all die in this sea area. What should we do? Where is the Lieutenant General? Don't think about it, Lieutenant General, the situation is more serious than us. That monster is standing in front of Lieutenant General. General Huang Yuan is coming, brothers, we are saved. Quote. For a time, seeing the appearance of the Golden Light group of the Golden Ape, they were all boiling. At this moment, Huang Yuan looked at Liang with a dignified face, but did not expect that this enemy was actually Liang who had escaped from the advanced city. Hasn't the other party been silenced? Why, it appeared in everyone's sight again. Moreover, as soon as it appeared, it brought such a huge turmoil, and the naval branch was attacked, and even the naval branch was destroyed. If possible, the enemy that Kizaru wants to meet the most is Liang. To ask why. Liang's speed was so terrifying that Kizaru couldn't keep up, which made him feel a great sense of frustration. It's you. Kazuna's face was gloomy and he said hoarsely. It's me, are you surprised? Liang nodded and smiled lightly. It's very surprising, and what's even more surprising is that you already possess such terrifying power. At the beginning, when you met you didn't have the strength to fight back, but now, you have grown to such a degree. Huang Yuan took a deep breath, and said with shock in his heart. Undeniable. When he met Liang from Pushin City, Kizaru didn't have to worry about his own safety. Because he fought for too long, Liang did not perform any attack that threatened him. This made him think that Liang was only unique in the field of speed. But looking at it now, Liang has been reborn. Now the enemy he has to face is not only at the top level in the field of speed, but also terrifying in terms of destructive power. Otherwise, it is impossible for the G4 branch to be reduced to such a level. I'm very surprised, why did you attack the naval branch? Besides, you killed so many navies. This is a move to start a full-scale war with our naval headquarters. Generally speaking, reasonable people would not choose to do it. Kizaru took a deep look at Liang and asked. Your navy headquarters used me as a pawn, and I have to let you try the consequences. Otherwise, doesn't it mean that I am at your mercy? Liang chuckled lightly and waved his hand, very calm. Heidao Chushui was in his hand, with a fierce murderous aura. Aokiji and Akainu are coming one after another, and you still have no intention of leaving. That means, are you sure you can face the three of us? This is incredible. Kizaru's words were frivolous, but with a heavy tone. Liang's strength has grown so fast that a shadow is shrouded in his heart. How long has it been since? Liang has grown to such a point that if he gives the other party a little more time, who else in this world can stop Liang's pace? Thinking of this, Kizaru's mood became heavier. He didn't even have self-confidence, and joined forces with Aokiji and Akainu to keep Liang here. The three generals are dispatched together, and even one person cannot be retained. This incident really shook the sea. Even the four emperors, I'm afraid it's just like that. Aside. Liang, the lieutenant general of the giant clan, looked at both Liang and Kizaru with a face full of surprise, his lips trembling. Sure enough, what Liang said just now was not false. He really fought against General Kizaru, and he left calmly in the end. However, there are the other two generals coming. I don't believe it. The three generals can't keep each other. Even the four emperors may not be so capable. Longs thought to himself, his expression became firm. Come on, Huang Yuan, let me see if your speed has improved. Liang held the black knife Chushui, pointed at the yellow monkey, and said lightly. I really don't want to fight with you, but now, it's basically impossible for me not to do it. Since you have a famous sword in your hand, let me see if your swordsmanship can compare with I am stronger. Kizaru crossed his hands, holding a ball of golden light in his right hand, pulling it out from the palm of his left hand. Tiankong Cloud Sword. Kizaru held a golden lightsaber, his face was expressionless, and he looked at Liang in front of him with unprecedented seriousness. General Kazuna, such a serious look. I have never seen such a serious look on his face. Could it be that the enemy in front of him is really so terrifying? Chapter 075_Shibe will be treated with admiration for 3 days. Please order it first. Please order it yourself. 4/10. General Kazuna, such a serious look. I have never seen such a serious look on his face. Could it be that the enemy in front of him is really so terrifying? Some navies thought with horror on their faces. The name of the yellow monkey is laziness. On weekdays, basically all he sees is his lazy and frivolous expression, and it is difficult to see his serious demeanor. And at this moment, facing Liang in front of him, Kizaru was rarely serious. Back. Longs's pupils shrank and shouted. Under his guidance, a group of navies dispersed one after another, making way for an open space for both Kizaru and Liang. The atmosphere became oppressive. The two terrifying auras collided with each other. It's rare, it can make you serious, it seems that my face is not small. With a smile on the corner of Liang's mouth, he slowly said 0. Holding the black knife Chushui, he has the sharp edge of a swordsman all over his body, and he is very sharp and fierce. Come to fight. Huang Yuan was expressionless, kicked his feet, his whole body turned into a ball of golden light, and disappeared in front of Liang. In the blink of an eye, the figure of Kizaru appeared beside Liang, holding the Tiankong Cloud Sword, and slashed it down with one sword. Boom! Liang's eyes narrowed slightly, and he was able to clearly capture the movements of the yellow ape. He had already reacted at the moment when the yellow ape appeared. Extreme speed. The black sword Chushui and Tiankong Yunjian collided. Boom! A terrifying airflow swept through the audience, making people change their color. Buzz! The space seemed to be shattered by this force and kept shaking. It was obvious that two terrifying forces were colliding. Call out! Call out! One after another slashing, flying around, slashing the surrounding sea, cracking a terrifying trace. The scene is extremely shocking, it is breathtaking, and the scalp is numb. Click! The ground cracked again. Longs and the others were flustered. It's cracked again. In this level of confrontation, we should stay as far away as possible. Get out of here. Boom! Suddenly, a figure was directly forced to retreat, crashing into the ruins of the building, raising billowing smoke. Longs waited for the navy to be stunned, looking at the figure walking out of the ruins ahead. Finally, when they saw this figure, their expressions were even more shocked. General Yellow Monkey was actually forced to retreat. Long 1.8Z's throat was dry and he lost his voice. A group of Marines couldn't believe what their eyes were seeing, and quickly rubbed their eyes to make sure they were not mistaken. They were indeed right. The person who was forced to retreat and crashed into the ruins was Kizaru. It's only been a few minutes since I started with the other party, and General Kizaru was forced to retreat. Many navies were shocked and couldn't believe it. This is the general. The highest combat power of the Navy headquarters, one of the three generals, Kizaru Korosalino. Just so vulnerable. At this time, Kazuna was covered in dust and looked a little embarrassed, looking at Li Ang who was smiling in front of him with a dignified face. Shibu 3 days to be treated with admiration. The current Li Ang is no longer the Li Ang who was advancing the city at the beginning. This point, the Yellow Monkey felt very clearly. With the terrifying force that Li Ang had just pushed back with his sword, Kizaru knew that Li Ang could not be helped by himself alone. Chapter 076_ The three generals will come together. Please order the first order. Please customize it. 5/10. Kazuna, your swordsmanship is not that good. Li Ang held the black knife Chushui. His face was calm, and he said lightly. I was negligent. Your swordsmanship is so powerful. But what puzzles me is that when you were advancing the city, why didn't you use swordsmanship? Huang Yuan patted the dust on his clothes, looked at Li Ang, and said. Can I say that swordsmanship is something I just mastered a while ago? Li Ang laughed and said bluntly. He wasn't lying. Swordsmanship is indeed the ultimate swordsmanship that was modified by the system after logging into the terrifying bark a while ago and meeting the swordsman Longma. Otherwise, if he wants to achieve this level of swordsmanship through his own efforts, I am afraid that it will be difficult to achieve it within 100 or 80 years. Hey, if you lie, you have to make a draft. Huang Yuan obviously did not believe it, said. Hearing this, Li Ang understood. I guess you won't believe it, and I don't want you to believe it. In short, today, I destroyed the G4 branch, and I think it's a lesson for your naval headquarters. Navy headquarters, how can you destroy it if you say it is destroyed? The golden monkey's whole body turned into golden light and disappeared in a flash. Boom. The smile on Li Ang's face was undiminished, and he turned his head to the side, easily dodging the attack brought by the Tiankong Yunjian of the Japanese ape, slowly raising the black knife Chushui with his right hand, and stabbed one in front of him quickly and violently. The response is really fast. Huang Yuan's pupils shrank, and he had to distance himself, looking at Li Ang in surprise. Have to admit, the Li Ang in front of him is more threatening than the original Li Ang. Even, let the yellow monkey feel a threat of death. Let you see and see, perfect swordsmanship. Li Ang narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled lightly. Immediately afterwards, the knife fell from the hand. Heidao Chu Shui burst out with a sharp slash, piercing the air, and instantly arrived in front of Kizaru. Not good. The yellow monkey's face changed greatly, and he had no choice but to use elementalization. PFF'd. The terrifying slash slashed through Kizaru's body and slashed towards the distant sea. Boom. A loud bang. The sea was choppy, and a scary trace was cracked. The sea water could not heal in a short time. Under the aftermath of this slash, the terrifying picture was frozen. I see. In the center of the sea surface, it seems that there is a crack in the ground, and the sea water cannot cover it. In the gap, it was dark, and it was simply outrageous to know how many meters deep under the water this slash had reached. Gradually, Huang Yuan broke away from the elementalization, and felt the violent force of the slash just now. He still had lingering fears, and it was almost, if he did not elementalize, he would be cut in two. This guy is really strong. The spine of the yellow monkey was wet with sweat. This was the first time he felt the threat of death at such a close distance. This is also the most terrifying battle he has faced since he became a general. Come again. Li Yang's figure disappeared, and he disappeared from everyone's sight using a faster speed than Kizaru. What about people? Not far away, Longs led many navies to hide in the cracks of the stones, his face full of horror, and he lost his voice. Li Yang's speed is too fast, much faster than Kizaru. That's what shocked them. In an instant, Li Yang appeared beside the yellow ape with a curved corner of his mouth, holding Chushui, and slashed at the forehead of the yellow monkey without any hesitation. Boom! Huang Yuan's eyes were fast and his hands were fast, holding the Tiankong cloud sword, and quickly blocked Li Yang's slash. The collision of the two, the airflow generated, made the surrounding seawater roar, and the scene can be described as very terrifying. The duel at the general level is magnificent and breathtaking. This is the real battle. Chapter 076 _ The three generals will come together. Please order first. Please order. 5/10. This is the real battle. Then, Li Yang continued to attack, smiling unabated. His movements are light and easy, and his speed is getting faster and faster, and his swordsmanship is getting better and better. On the other hand, Kizaru's expression became more and more serious. Li Yang's swordsmanship was very terrifying. When he was a little negligent, he would usher in a fatal blow. In terms of pure swordsmanship, Kizaru was horrified to discover that he himself was not even 1/10 of Li Yang's. Li Yang's swordsmanship was so perfect that it was completely impeccable. Even while constantly attacking, Li Yang's swordsmanship was still able to effectively take defensive measures, without a single loophole, nor did it give Kyabu a chance to reverse the situation. It's hard to believe that your swordsmanship is at this age. Huang Yuan had a lingering fear in his heart, and had to admit that Li Yang's swordsmanship was quite high. I have already said that my swordsmanship was learned a while ago. The corners of Li Yang's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly. For his words, Kizaru chose to ignore it subconsciously. No one could comprehend such a terrifying level of swordsmanship in such a short period of time. Swordsmanship requires not only talent but also hard work. Among them, the importance of hard work is far greater than that of talent, and all Daishanhao has reached this position by virtue of his own extraordinary efforts and tenacious willpower. If Li Yang said so, then the world's great swordsmen are more than that. There is a loophole. Li Yang's eyes flickered, and under his control, Heidao Chushui swiftly attacked the weak and defenseless area of Kizaru. Huang Yuan's eyelids jumped, and the position of his left rib was gradually approached by Li Yang's black sword Chushui. If it was penetrated, he would not be far from death. But it is very difficult to let him dodge now. Sudden. Li Yang's eyelids moved slightly, and he took the initiative to back up a few steps, very fast, and instantly disappeared in front of Kizaru. At the same time, ice thorns fell from the sky, attacking the position where Li Yang was standing before, and even pierced the ground, and the lethality was terrifying. Boom! There were also clumps of magma, and the rocks covered with magma splashed everywhere, and launched a covering attack on Li Yang's position just now. The ground shook, and the huge G4 branch, under these two attacks, hit the floor so much that it penetrated the past. Lava, ice spikes. When these two attacks appear, you can imagine who came. You too, it's so slow, I almost died. Huang Yuan reluctantly waved his hand and said slowly. At the same time, behind Kizaru, two figures gradually walked out, wearing navy uniforms with the word, Justice, with expressionless faces, walking step by step, imposing like a rainbow. A whole body is covered with a layer of magma, the flames rise, and the temperature soars. One is covered in ice cubes, like an ice man, emitting cold air, and with every step, the ground is frozen into ice cubes. Two people, like ice and fire. Akainu Sakaski. Green Pheasant Kuzan. The two of them walked beside Kizaru and looked at Li Yang in front of them, without any expression, his face was gloomy. The atmosphere became very depressing, terribly depressing. The three generals, all arrived. "General, here we are, General Akainu, and General Aokiji. This time, this Li Ang can't even fly." My God, the three generals were dispatched together. In order to deal with Li Ang, I think that even if Li Ang died, he would be honored to die. Quote. Countless navies were excited. Seeing the three highest naval forces appear at the same time, this scene is rare. And Li Ang in front of him was just one person. They didn't think that if the three generals were dispatched, they would still lose. If you want to lose, it will only be Li Ang. They're all here. There was a smile on Li Ang's face, which never dissipated. Looking at the three people in front of him, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru, he was as calm as ever, and he couldn't see his nervousness at all. Chapter 077 _ The Ultimate Armed Color. Please order first. Customize. 6/10. Aside. Longs was tense and couldn't hide his excitement. He lost his voice. The three generals are all here. This time, Li Ang can be arrested and returned to the advanced city. It's safe to say. The three generals represent the top forces of the Navy headquarters. If this can't help Li Ang, then the Navy headquarters really has nothing to do with Li Ang. But is it possible? Longs did not think that Li Ang could block the attack of the three generals, which was obviously unrealistic. Even the four emperors may not be able to shake the three generals with their own power. And Li Ang, can he be compared with the four emperors? Do not make jokes. Four emperors, those are the four emperors of the New World, the terrible people who rule the New World. How can Li Ang be compared with such a terrifying figure? At least, that's what Lance thought. At this moment, Li Ang faced the three generals alone without changing his face. It was rare to see someone who could be so calm. "You escaped from the advanced city, Li Ang." Akainu's eyes narrowed, staring at Li Ang, and said solemnly. The feeling that the branch fortress was divided into two made him feel heavier. This crack, obviously, was directly cut off by a terrifying slash. The culprit is the power in front of you. This also proves that Li Ang's strength cannot be underestimated. "You too, be careful, he's faster than me," Yellow Ape had to remind. Well, Qingzi was a little surprised, and looked at Li Ang suspiciously. The speed is faster than the yellow monkey, what kind of point does this have to achieve? In the field of speed, it is recognized that the strongest is the yellow monkey. However, the speed of Li Ang that I met today was even faster than that of the yellow monkey. It's no wonder that when Huang Yuan did it himself, he couldn't keep Li Ang. No matter how fast it is, it doesn't make any sense. Akaji said with an expressionless face. The magma lingered on his body, and clumps of crimson magma fell to the ground. The ground was melted by the high temperature of the magma, revealing perforations one by one, which was very terrifying. Click. The green pheasant's whole body was cold, and the whole body turned into ice cubes. The icy temperature even solidified the surrounding sea area. He jumped up, jumped to the sea, and when he was about to reach the sea, his lips moved slightly, Ice Age diaresis. The sea turned into ice, extending kilometers away. The flow of the seawater stopped abruptly, and the other half of the branch fortress that was about to sink to the bottom of the sea was also frozen and merged with the seawater. The navy standing above can finally breathe a sigh of relief. "General, it's still very reliable." Many navies laughed in unison. With three generals taking action, why should they worry about the safety of their lives? Can Li Ang survive with the alliance of the three generals? In this world, the person who can block the three generals by himself has not yet been born. His swordsmanship is quite tyrannical. In a short fight, I lost to him. Huang Yuan took a deep breath and said. At this juncture, some important news cannot be neglected for the so-called face. Otherwise, it will cause some great harm to the two people. Not to mention, losing to Li Ang was nothing to be ashamed of. But you're still unscathed, aren't you? The corner of Qingzi's mouth moved slightly, and he smiled lightly, In this way, it means one thing. It is very likely that he does not understand the domineering look of armament at all. Well. Kizaru's eyes flickered, almost forgetting this most important thing. That's right. In Li Yang's body, he had never seen Li Yang display his arrogance and domineering, and he had always used his terrifying speed and swordsmanship to fight him. But no matter how terrifying the speed and swordsmanship is, if there is no armed domineering, it will be of no use to deal with those with natural abilities like them. Chapter 077 _ The Ultimate Armed Color. Please order first. Customize. 6/10. But no matter how terrifying the speed and swordsmanship is, if there is no armed domineering, it will be of no use to deal with those with natural abilities like them. Go ahead. Akainu couldn't bear his temper, and magma poured out of his hands. Looking at Li Yang in front of him, he quickly attacked. Ming Dog. His fists turned into magma, steaming hot air emerged, and he attacked swiftly. Light speed kick. Ice cubes and 2 thorn spears. Aokiji and Kizaru attacked one after another. Kizaru stood in the air, a golden light burst from his right foot, and attacked Li Yang's position. The speed of light kick instantly enveloped the area below. The magma of the red dog also arrived in front of Li Yang. If he was hit directly, even Li Yang would be killed on the spot. Aokiji held the ice thorn in both hands, threw it out, and launched a swift and violent attack on Li Yang's position. The 3 generals, all started together, and a terrifying attack broke out, covering the position where Li Yang was standing. So strong, is this the strength of a general? Too strong, this time, Li Yang is either dead or disabled. No, under such a rapid attack, there is no possibility of maiming. There is only one possibility, and that is, death. Quote. Countless navies looked at the battlefield ahead excitedly, whispered to themselves, and talked. Facing the fierce offensive of the 3 generals, Li Yang had a calm face, kicked his feet, and quickly left the area. His speed was unmatched by anyone present. As Qingzi said, he has not yet mastered the domineering power of the armed color, and it is still somewhat disadvantageous to meet the natural ability person in front of him. If he can master the domineering of the armed color, then he will not be in a passive situation. Congratulations to the host. Open the modifier, armed color domineering plus 999,999. Open black lens bracket. Comprehend the destruction of all things. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Breakthrough novice. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Breakthrough entry. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Breakthrough proficiency. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Breakthrough master. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Breakthrough master. Close black lens bracket. Quote. Just come. Li Yang's eyes twinkled brightly, and in an instant, a domineering use of armed color poured into his forehead, making him handy and directly controlling the top armed domineering. The system will definitely not be late. When he lacks the domineering ability of the armed color, the system will immediately touch. It came by coincidence, and it came perfectly. Let Li Yang have the terrifying power to kill those with the ability of the natural system, and, in the blink of an eye, it is already the ultimate armed domineering, and there is no need to practice at all. This moment. Li Yang slowly raised his head, looked at the 3 generals in front, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Right in front, countless attacks swept in. He didn't change his face, he didn't move, and he showed no sign of running away. The whole body is gradually covered with a layer of armor-like defense, pure black, like black jade, indestructible, crystal clear, and extremely smooth. That's it, armed with domineering. Li Yang spread out his hands, looked at the layer of armor covering his hands, and smiled faintly. The attack in front of him drowned him in an instant. Lava, ice spike, light speed attack. The violent moves of the 3 generals, Nords, enveloped Li Yang from the front. The magma, ice cubes, and light speed attacks all hit Li Yang's body, and he also felt the scorching temperature coming from the outside of his body. The ultimate armament is domineering, and it is still unrealistic to completely block their attacks. After all, their strength is not weak. Li Ang quickly retreated, getting rid of the attack range in front. The whole body was scorching hot, and there was a biting cold. Let him understand a little bit, the current extreme armament color domineering, the degree of attack that can be blocked. It is very unrealistic for an enemy of the level of a general to completely rely on armed domineering to block them. Even if Li Ang possessed the perfect domineering aura of armament, it was impossible for him to use his body covered with domineering aura of armament to forcibly catch the general's blow. However, with the domineering armed color in control, Li Ang will not be passive. Next, it's my turn to attack you. Li Ang's eyes narrowed slightly, sparkling brightly, looking at the three generals in front of him, said. Chapter-78-I want to kill you, you can't stop me. Please order first. Please customize. 7/10. Boom. The attack of the three generals shattered the ground, and a huge gap appeared, bottomless. Smoke billows. As the smoke gradually dissipated, the three of Akainu also saw Li Ang, who was covered in black armor, and his face became heavier. Armed and domineering. The corners of Akainu's mouth moved slightly, his voice hoarse. Originally thought that Li Ang was not armed, but now, they are whimsical. Seeing that, Li Ang's armament skills are quite high. From the color on the surface, you can tell that the armed color of Li Ang is quite terrifying. Speed, swordsmanship, knowledge and armament, hey, true or false? The yellow monkey's eyelids twitched violently, and some couldn't believe it. How can one person really possess so many fields? Still at the top of the field. This time it's troublesome. Aokiji's expression also became serious, and said slowly. The three of them were all very heavy. At the beginning, Li Ang was not armed, so they didn't have to worry too much. But when Li Angruo was armed, the battle situation changed instantly. The extreme speed made it impossible for them to capture Li Ang's figure. The pinnacle of swordsmanship, the attack made them hard to guard against. Coupled with the armed color, it is completely possible to kill any 700 of the three of them. Next, be careful. Qingzi looked at Li Ang calmly and said. At this time, Li Ang's whole body was covered with a layer of black armor, and together with the black knife Chu Shui held in his hand, it was also covered with a layer of indestructible armor. The extreme domineering of the armed color doubled his strength. Come on. Li Ang's eyes flickered. His footsteps moved forward, and the whole person disappeared from everyone's sight. Immediately, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru turned their gazes to the limit, trying to capture Li Ang's figure. But Li Ang was too fast. For a moment, Li Ang appeared beside Qingzi without emotional fluctuations. Knife up and down. A sharp slash slashed towards Qingzi's forehead. Armed arrogance pervades the black sword autumn water. If this slashing green pheasant is not blocked or avoided, he will die here on the spot. At the same time, Qingzi's pupils shrank, his feet kicked, and he quickly retreated. At the same time, he activated the fruit ability with both hands to form a huge ice wall, trying to block Li Ang's attack. Click. Li Ang held Chushui and slashed it down quickly, destroying the ice wall directly into powder. At this time, Akainu and Kizaru also ABDF, reacted and urged their attacks one after another. Ming Dog. Light speed kick. Both of them burst out with tyrannical moves. Li Ang glanced at the two of them, changed direction temporarily, stepped back several steps, and burst out with two slashes, which collided violently with the attacks of Akainu and Kyabu. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the ice blocks caused by the surrounding green pheasants cracked. A terrifying air swept the audience. Li Ang rubbed his feet against the ground, took a few steps back, and the corners of his mouth curled into an arc. The three generals, colliding with him, did not seem to be able to completely suppress him. There is even a risk of being killed by him. On the opposite side, Akainu and Kizaru looked very solemn, their eyes fixed on Li Ang, and they didn't dare to be careless. By the way, I almost forgot about the business. Suddenly, Li Ang patted his forehead and laughed. In the eyes of the three generals, his eyes turned, fixed on Lance and many navies, and said, in the beginning, my target has always been them, why should I confront you? I really am silly. Well. Chapter 078 _ I want to kill you, you can't stop me. Please order first. Please customize. 7/10. Well. Akainu's pupils shrank, and there was an ominous premonition in his heart. What do you want to do? My purpose is not to kill you. For this reason, I have no reason to fight with you at all. Corners of Li Ang's mouth twitched slightly, and he smiled lightly. From the very beginning, my purpose was to destroy the naval branch. I cannot change my original intention because of your presence. Can you do it with us here? The green pheasant's eyelids twitched and he said solemnly. Seriously? Li Ang smiled and said, if I want to kill people, you can't stop me. Hearing this, the three of Akainu fell silent one after another, without making a sound. Li Ang is right. His speed is too fast. If he wants to kill, unless the yellow monkey can be entangled, the other two can only eat fart behind Li Ang's ass. Come on, they're just innocent. Aokiji took a deep breath and said. Innocent. There are too many innocent people in this sea. In fact, I really want to say that I am also innocent. But haven't you still shot at me? So, the word innocent is meaningless. Li Ang laughed and said. Go. Akainu shouted loudly, lava poured out of his hands, and attacked Li Ang's position. Aokiji and Kizaru also broke out one after another, and the rapid offensive enveloped Li Ang. Faced with the joint offensive of the three generals, Li Ang did not change his face, turned around, looked at the group of navies hiding in the ruins, and smiled lightly. This smile was deeply imprinted in the hearts of Lanzi and the other navy. What does he want to do? A navy soldier blurted out with panic on his face. Is he going to do something with us? No, it must not be like that. Under the eyes of the three generals, how dare he attack us? A group of navy couldn't believe it. Li Ang's figure disappeared from everyone's sight. Aokiji's face changed dramatically and shouted, get out of there. However, as soon as his words fell, Li Ang's figure appeared in front of Long's and the other group of navy. The corner of his mouth was still looking at Aradian. His smile was unabated, holding a black knife in autumn water, covered with a layer of sturdy armament and domineering. Buzz. A sharp slash continued to enlarge in the sight of Long's and the other navy. The dazzling light made their bodies stiff, and they were suppressed by this terrifying momentum, unable to move. Long's lips trembled, and he could only watch the attack approaching, but he had nothing to do. Stop. There was a bit of gloom on Aokiji's face, and he shouted. Ice thorns appeared in his hands, trying to block Li Ang's attack. Call out. The sharp slash, as if piercing the air, successfully arrived in front of Long's and others. Boom. A loud bang. The ground cracked, all the ice cubes shattered, and the huge branch fortress floor was pierced through the huge pit. In the pit, the ocean current surged, and the entire foundation was pierced. Long's, who was hit by the frontal attack, and many thousands of navies behind him were all killed. Under Li Ang's terrifying slash, all of them could no longer die, and the corpses could not be kept intact, and they vanished into nothingness and disappeared into this world. Silence. The three of Qingzi looked at the group of navies who were instantly killed. Among them, there was also a lieutenant general of the Navy headquarters. His face became extremely gloomy, as if water could drip. You, damn it. Qingzi was full of anger and stared at Li Ang. Akainu and Kizaru also looked very angry. Seeing a group of navy being killed in front of him, where do you put their face? I told you, you can't stop me. Li Ang slowly withdrew the black sword autumn water, looked at the three generals, and said calmly. Chapter 079 The Disappearance of the G4 Naval Branch. Kill. Akainu's tone was cold, staring at Li Ang with no emotion. In front of him, he actually killed thousands of navy, How could he tolerate it? Li Yang's actions have touched the anger in the three of them, like a surging volcano, erupting in an instant, with a terrifying momentum. Big Spitfire. Ice Age. Laser. And attacked quickly. Lava, ice spread, golden light. This offensive swept the position where Li Yang was standing. At the same time, Li Yang's face was calm, holding the black knife Chu Shui. He slashed down with one knife. Call out. A sharp slash collided with a Kainu's fire-breathing fire, and was cut into two halves, falling on both sides and passing by Li Yang. Boom. A huge perforation appeared on the ground, and a Kainu's attack range was too wide. There is a hole in the foundation, the sea flows, and the waves are rough. But then, the ice age of Aokiji arrived, condensing the sea water, and the water droplets were still thrown into the air, turning into ice cubes and falling to the ground. The temperature dropped to 0 in an instant, affecting Li Yang's feet. Li Yang jumped up and avoided the green pheasant's attack. Layers of ice appeared on the ground, and even the slate was frozen. The surrounding area of the sea was completely frozen, and the wind and waves were calm. All the seawater turned into ice cubes, and the sea surface that was already ice cubes became stronger again, and even the area covering several meters under the sea became ice. A golden laser beam arrived in front of Li Yang. His face was calm, his hand was covered with armed color, and he punched out. Boom. With a loud bang, Li Yang was directly smashed by the left hand of Kizaru's laser, slammed into the sky, penetrated the heavy clouds, and finally disappeared. Li Yang rubbed his feet against the ground and stepped back several meters before he stopped. Have to admit. The alliance of the three generals allowed Li Yang to close down on anyone who could kill each other for a period of time. Fortunately, Li Yang's goal today is not to fight against the three generals. In the future, there will be this opportunity. But what he has to do now is to destroy the G4 branch. Now Lieutenant General Longs of the G4 branch has died under his attack, and the G4 branch is divided into two. This half of the navy was all killed, and the rest was the other half of the navy. After making up his mind, Li Yang disappeared in the eyes of the three generals. Not good. The green pheasant was quick-witted, and immediately understood Li Yang's purpose. His eyes quickly turned to another half of the branch fortress that was frozen in the sea, where a group of navy still lived. And this is Li Yang's final goal. Suddenly, the pupils of the yellow monkey shrank, the whole body turned into golden light, and disappeared. Akainu and Aokiji were dispatched one after another, chasing after the other half of the naval branch fortress. The group of navy on the other half of the branch fortress was puzzled, looking at the anxious faces of the three generals, and seemed to understand something, but they still could not choose to escape. Whoosh! Li Yang's figure appeared on the half of the branch fortress, with a faint smile, said, "The remaining half, also disappear." Li Yang, this monster is here. My God, is he going to attack us? In front of the general. Just now, Lieutenant General Longs and the others were killed. His next purpose is us. This crazy guy, I don't want to die here. Quote. A group of navy was in chaos. They looked at Li Yang's figure, and all the courage in their hearts disappeared. In front of Li Yang, they did not dare to act rashly even if they were armed with guns. Chapter 079 The Disappearance of the G4 Naval Branch. Please order first. Please order. 8/10. In front of Li Yang, they did not dare to act rashly even if they were armed with guns. Boom. A navy shot at Li Yang, and the corners of his nervous mouth trembled. In the face of this kind of ordinary weapon attack, Li Yang was very relaxed, turned his head and avoided a bullet. Even if he didn't fire much, his whole body was armed and domineering, and it was impossible for these ordinary bullets to penetrate into the body. Boom, boom, boom. Shoot. Countless navies armed with guns launched fire suppression against Li Yang. It's a pity that Li Yang was even too lazy to drive, and he moved forward step by step. There was a crisp sound from his body, and the bullets bombarded him without pain or itching. The extreme domineering of the armed color is too strong, and ordinary bullets can't even be scratched. You guys, it's too noisy. Li Ang's face was calm, and he said lightly. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a golden light suddenly appearing behind him, and he clenched his left hand into a fist and slammed it out. Boom! As soon as Huang Yuangang finished elementalization, he received a punch from Li Ang's armed color, which made him unable to react. He quickly armed with both hands and blocked it in front of him, but he was still hit by Li Ang. Under Li Ang's punch covered with armed colors, the power it brings is naturally quite terrifying. Kizaru appeared in a parabola, and was instantly knocked away by more than 10 meters, flying horizontally in the air. The armed colors of both hands could not support Li Ang's strength, and there were signs of broken bones. Zero ask for flowers. This monster. Huang Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air, and the pain in his arm made him even more shocked. Li Ang's armed color is also very terrifying, and this is what shocked him. Akainu and Aokiji arrived at the battlefield one after another, chasing Li Ang's back. Li Ang held a black knife in autumn water, looked at a group of navy in front of him, and cut down with a knife without any mercy. Call out. The slashing slash instantly arrived in front of the group of navies who were shooting. It was visible in their eyes, and the bright light was infinitely magnified. In the end, nothing could be seen. Boom! Huge gentleman, covering this huge branch fortress. A cloud of smoke billowed, and inside, all the navies were killed. Huge G4 naval branch, just today, ushered in its demise. There are no survivors, even if there are, they are going out for business, and those navies who have not returned to the branch should be thankful that they are not at the branch fortress today. Otherwise, they will usher in the same consequences, that is, death. Click. Under Li Ang's terrifying slash, the naval branch gradually collapsed, cracking every inch. In the end, half of the branch fortress was turned into ruins, and little by little, it sank into the sea and disappeared. Even the corpses above entered the sea and gradually disappeared from sight. Akainu and Aokiji stood behind Li Ang, looking at the silence of half of the branch fortress. Their breathing became messy, and the anger in their eyes became more surging. The navy branch was actually sunk. They have dispatched 3 generals here. But is it still impossible to reverse this situation? What has been determined is that the G4 branch has since disappeared in the sea. Not only the building, but even the lieutenant general of the naval headquarters who guarded the branch, and thousands of naval soldiers were all killed in action, and some of the faces and corpses could not be preserved intact. Li Ang, you, damn it. Akainu's tone was heavy, and he roared, his eyes bloodshot. Aokiji's body was emitting cold air, and his face was icy cold. Huang Yuan also returned to the battlefield, and the 3 of them looked at Li Ang in unison. At this time, Li Ang turned around, looked at the 3 of them, stretched out his hands very easily, and smiled calmly. 3, I'm sorry to tell you some news. My goal has been accomplished. Chapter 080_Hey, what about the naval branch? Please order first. Please customize. 9/10. Do you want to run away? Aokiji's face was heavy and he said hoarsely. Destroyed the naval branch, how could it be so easy to escape the siege of the 3 of them? In this way, doesn't it mean that their naval headquarters are incompetent? The 3 generals were dispatched in unison, but they couldn't help Li Ang. If Li Ang took action against the Navy headquarters, they would be helpless. Fortunately, no one here has found it yet. If anyone finds out, Li Ang will destroy the naval branch alone, and the 3 generals will not even be able to keep Li Ang. The spread of this matter will bring huge turmoil to the Navy headquarters. Want to escape? No way. Akainu took a deep breath, lava poured out of his hands, and stared at Li Ang intently. The branch was destroyed, and the 3 generals could not stop Li Ang's goal. In this case, Li Ang must be kept, otherwise how can they go back to do business? 150. Kizaru's expression was very solemn, and he was always on guard against Li Ang's escape. Li Yang's speed is indeed terrifying. But Kyabu can barely compete. He only needs to block Li Yang, and Akainu and Aokiji will launch a rapid attack behind him. The three of them joined together too little. If it weren't for such a huge thing that happened today, the three of them would not be able to join forces to fight side by side. The most terrifying thing is that there is only one enemy who led them to join forces. I said, you can't stop me. Whether it's protecting the Navy or stopping me, you can't do these things, so don't waste your efforts. Li Yang said with a light smile, his expression indifferent. He was holding a black knife in autumn water, and the domineering black armor covered the top, exuding an icy cold air. At present, it is still a little unrealistic for him to kill the three generals by himself. If it was a one-on-one situation, Li Yang would have the confidence to kill a general, and it was still very easy to kill. But if the three generals join forces, it is hard to say. And today, his purpose has been accomplished. G4 branch to be destroyed has already been destroyed. At this time, the battle with the three generals is just an extraneous issue. It is not Li Yang's original purpose, and he does not take it too seriously. The two sides confronted. The atmosphere gradually became oppressive. The sea is frozen for thousands of miles, the sea is frozen, and the cold is pressing. From the G4 branch. A ship is gradually sailing. On the top, Cheng Shang is a fresh and pleasant woman, about 20 years old, with a graceful figure and a pretty and moving appearance. Her golden hair is softly thrown on her back and moves with the wind. Her name is Loris and she is a tour guide. The main responsibility is to lead people to play in the surrounding waters, and to make a lot of introductions and ease the atmosphere of the crowd. Now, you can see it from the boat. In addition to herself, there are 20 or 30 young people looking at the surrounding sea with curiosity. They are the age when they are curious about everything. Next, let's go to the second place of our 3-day tour. In front is the G4 Naval Branch Fortress. When you go there, don't make any noise. The Navy here is not easy to mess with, do you understand? Luo Lisi's voice is clear and sweet, with a professional smile, said. G4 branch. It is said that the Navy in this place is a big villain. I don't know if it is true, Miss Rawlis. Yeah, I heard that they often rob civilians of things. But then again, what's the Naval Branch Fortress like? I've never seen it when I'm so old. Chapter 080_Hey, what about the Naval Branch? Please order first. Please customize. 9/10. NLT, 29 and GT. A group of tourists said curiously. When talking about the G4 Naval Branch, their words did not bring much admiration, but rather contempt. The G4 branch is notorious. Basically, in the mouths of the civilians in the nearby sea area, they belong to that kind of soldier, similar to the gangsters on the street. Although he didn't do too many evil deeds, he would occasionally snatch some supplies and make the civilians miserable, but he didn't dare to act rashly. Anyway, the loss is not very big, so let's just pass by. Speaking of this matter, I have to remind you. Later, if you see the Navy, you must not pass these words to their ears. If they hear it, we won't have any good fruit to eat. Everyone should be careful, don't say anything that shouldn't be said, and once we say it, we will be in great trouble. Luo Lisi's pretty face showed a little panic, and quickly reminded. When the Navy heard these words, I was afraid that she would be implicated and affected. Under Luo Lisi's reminder, everyone nodded understandingly, and did not discuss this too much. And Luo Lisi's own professional is also very reliable. In a blink of an eye, it has brought the atmosphere of the crowd, making everyone avoid these homicide topics of the G4 branch Navy 0. The ship sails to the sea ahead. Next, we will arrive at the G4 branch. Everyone is optimistic. This is rare. I can bring tourists here to play with permission. There are no such good project measures in other places. So, if everyone wants to play in the future, we are the first choice. This G4 branch was established 30 years ago, when you spent a lot of manpower and material resources. Moreover, it is very magnificent. Many navies are training here. It is because of the G4 branch that our sea area can be so peaceful. Everyone, please enjoy it to the fullest. Rollins smiled, looked at the dozens of young people in front of her, pointed her left hand behind her, and introduced. This is not the first time she has come to this sea area. Therefore, the address of the G4 branch is simply too familiar. Even with her eyes closed, she can come here accurately. After hearing Laura's words, front, many tourists were stunned and rubbed their eyes, wondering if they were wrong. What about the G4 naval branch? It seems, no. Ah. A tourist couldn't help but said, Miss Rawlis, have you taken us through the place? Where is the naval branch here? It's just another frozen sea and it's already 5.6. Yeah, we didn't see anything, we must have gone to the wrong place. Quote. In the face of everyone's words, Luo Lisi frowned, a little unclear. The route couldn't be wrong, and it wasn't the first time she brought people here. Immediately, she turned her head and looked at the frozen sea in front of her. As expected. In the eye, it is empty. The naval branch seems to have even seen a shadow. Huh, where's the naval branch? Luo Lisi's beautiful eyes widened, round, and rubbed her eyes to make sure she was not wrong. She could be 100% sure that her voyage was on the right track. But why, there is no naval branch here? Could it be that the Navy branch will still run away?